בחרמון נמס השלג בחצי הלילה, בחרמון זורם לו פלג בחצי הליל. אבא שם על הר השלג בחצי הלילה, שר שירים על נס בפלא עם כל ישראל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. בבקעת תמר פורח בחצי הלילה, הירח שם זורח בחצי הליל. שם אחי ודאי שומע בחצי הלילה את שירנו השמח כאן בישראל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. במדבר הולך החושך בחצי הלילה, שקט הס בארץ גושן בחצי הליל. לדודי עיני נחושת בחצי הלילה, וגם הוא חוגג כמו שכל בית ישראל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. ואני יושב בבית בחצי הלילה, עם נרות וגביע יין בחצי הליל, וכוכב מאיר עיניים בחצי הלילה, לי מוסר ברכת שמיים ולכל ישראל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. שוב צוהל.
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння, різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар.
Future
Yes.
The Leaf Street Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back today at 989 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again. And Russia has targeted the Estonian Ambassador to Ukraine today and struck their apartment building, which is crazy to see. And also, the North Korean troops got absolutely slaughtered in Kursk today. A complete and utter failure, and we have all the news on that. And it's good to see you all once again.
And, of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from inside of Ukraine and around the world, as we've been hearing some major news updates and developments today over just the past 24 hours. Starting off with probably one of our largest ones, we were able to hear that the Russian Federation deliberately targeted and attacked the 33rd floor apartment of the Estonian Ambassador to Ukraine, causing significant damage to the 33rd floor of the building, completely destroying the ambassador's residence. Luckily, the Estonian ambassador listened to the air raid sirens just moments before and made it to shelter at the bottom of the building before the apartment was hit, just moments before there would have been disaster. It does appear that the Russian Federation is attempting to create a diplomatic incident with a NATO-aligned country at this point by possibly starting to target the diplomatic staff and envoys that are currently inside of Kyiv at this very moment. Outside of that news, we've also been able to get information today from inside the Kursk Oblast that the Russian Federation appears to be running out of small arms, as we are starting to see that the North Koreans are shipping in incredibly large numbers Type 73 light machine guns from the Korean People's Army into the area to be used not only by Russian Federation soldiers but also the North Korean expeditionary forces that are in the area as well. We have also been able to get reports from the armed forces of Ukraine that today the North Koreans finally made first contact in a large, sizable offensive and have been completely destroyed, once again being well within the expectations of how weak and poorly organized a Korean People's Army unit would be if structured and operated like an expeditionary force with largely Korean doctrinal and, I guess you could say, tactical training being implemented on the battlefield. Meanwhile, the Ukrainians have continued to hold the front line quite heavily within the area of the Kursk Oblast and appear to not be moving an inch. One thing that is moving an inch, however, is the scales of Russian oil, as it appears that Russian usable fuel products will once again start to become shorter in supply, at least here in the near future, as we have been able to hear that a Russian oil refinery near to the area of Saratov was hit. A fire was raging on the refinery when we were able to get video footage of the attack and the aftermath of the attack, and it appears that once again another Russian oil refinery has been knocked out of action for quite some considerable time. We have also been able to get news from inside the Middle East. The Israeli forces are continuing their operations against Hezbollah inside of southern Lebanon and have conducted precision airstrikes on the city of Tyre today, knocking out Hezbollah strongholds and HQs that were being used to operate their combat forces within the area that are currently engaging the Israeli Defense Forces, which are in southern Lebanon at the moment. Meanwhile, diplomatic pressure is finally beginning to mount inside the Middle East, as we have also been able to hear that there is a general notice being given by the Qatari government that all leaders of Hamas that are currently living inside the country in multi-million-dollar penthouses must pack up and leave immediately. They do not care where they go, but they cannot stay in Qatar due to the diplomatic pressure that is beginning to come on down to them as time is passing. And there is a very significant...
That's a little bit weird that all of a sudden they want to stop harboring terrorists. That's a strange turn of events for Qatar. I wonder why that happened.
It is a very interesting thing that happened, but it seems as though there may be another reason to that, as we have been able to hear of something very concerning in the United States just today. The United States intelligence forces, of course, working around the clock constantly to try and thwart any efforts that are being made by enemies of the United States and their actions here on our home soil or abroad, was able to uncover an assassination attempt that was about to be conducted just today or the next day by an Iranian operative against the president-elect of the United States. We've been able to hear that this plot has been foiled, and we've also been able to hear that internal intelligence agencies have been able to take the supposed perpetrator or the actor for the Islamic Republic of Iran into custody. We are most likely going to be getting more additional information about this as time goes by, but once again, it is a direct affront to this democracy that the Islamic Republic of Iran is attempting to kill either a sitting president or a president-elect, and once again showing that the Islamic Republic of Iran does not wish to just keep its qualms with Israel alone. It wishes to deal with the United States directly in a hostile and very dangerous manner. At the exact same time, we have also been able to hear of more updates on what happened in Amsterdam last night, and we will be having some more information on that a little bit later. Meanwhile, inside of Ukraine, throughout the rest of the front lines, we have, of course, been able to see that Ukrainian forces have been mounting very effective defensive actions at this moment against the Russian Federation, and not only that, have been able to conduct some limited counteroffensive actions once again in the area of Vovchansk, attempting to push the Russians back into the area of Belgorod and stopping them dead in their tracks from continuing to make any further progress inside of the Kharkiv Oblast. But we have loads and loads of news to cover again today. It's an incredibly high amount, largely as usual at this point, but we are, of course, very proud to know that we will be able to get y'all all the news out today, hopefully in as effective and as well researched a way as we possibly can. But moving on into the city of Kyiv, we are going to be moving into the top story today, as we were able to see a very unfortunate incident occur. Last night, the city of Kyiv, like many other nights, once again came under attack by Russian drones and missiles. The Ukrainian air defense was largely successful in stopping a decent amount of these drones from making it through, but nowadays it is generally seen as a norm that around 20 to 25% of all Russian drones and missiles fired into Ukraine will eventually make their way through the air defense and start hitting their intended targets. One of those drones ended up hitting an apartment building in Kyiv on the 33rd floor, specifically the 33rd floor. And what is very interesting about this, you can actually see the fire raging from the hit right there on the 33rd floor of this building, is that was actually the apartment for the Estonian ambassador to Ukraine in this building on the 33rd floor. Make no mistake about it, the drone hit directly onto the 33rd floor of this building inside of Kyiv. And it appears that during its entire flight, according to eyewitnesses, it did not appear to be an errant drone that it lost control. It was deliberately flying into that floor of that specific building at that time. That drone then hit into the building, and we did get to hear that later on the damage was incredibly severe. We were actually able to see some pictures of the top floor, this one here specifically, and this is what is left of the Estonian ambassador to Ukraine's apartment that was left after the drone strike, which had almost been completely destroyed in the ensuing fire, as well as the explosion that hit the floor. From what we understand, based off of all of the information that we have without a Russian statement, it appears that this was a deliberate attack directed at the Estonian ambassador to Ukraine that was attempting to either kill the ambassador or send some sort of a message or possibly create a diplomatic incident. Luckily, the ambassador is all right, and we have been able to hear that the ambassador did make it to an air raid shelter at the bottom of the building before the drone actually impacted the 33rd floor and the apartment that they were just in just moments before that attack occurred. We are understanding that the Estonian government has been making statements about the situation at the moment, saying that nowhere is really safe in Eastern Europe because of the Russian Federation, and that some sort of action must be done to deal with the Russian threat once and for all on into the future. It doesn't appear that the Estonian government is demanding any kind of NATO involvement. It appears that they're largely trying to see if they can get more support for Ukraine on into the future, but nevertheless, this attack does appear that it was attempting to create an international incident in between a Baltic state country and that of the Russian Federation. Many people
Good thing she was able to get out on time, because if she was still in the building when that thing hit, I don't think she would have survived that hit, because it looks like it took out the entire apartment, specifically on the floors that she was on. So that would have been very bad. We've been looking at a much different situation right now. Probably NATO involvement or some type of at least NATO conference at this point on how to respond to that. But thankfully, she was able to get to the bomb shelter in time.
It would have been a major diplomatic incident if that ambassador had been killed, as just to make this very clear for many people who are wondering whether the membership of Estonia to the NATO alliance is a fact or not, Estonia is a NATO member and has been a NATO member since the mid-90s, meaning that if that ambassador had been killed, a diplomatic representative of a NATO country would have been killed at that very moment. And from what we understand, that would have been the first time ever over the course of the entire war that a NATO diplomatic personnel or a person had been killed in any attack so far over 989 days. We are trying to still see what is going on in the diplomatic background inside of NATO, but it does appear that the Russians may have been trying to incite a diplomatic incident in between them and a Baltic state country. Many people may or may not know this, but the Russian Federation does not want to rebuild the Soviet Union. Largely from what we understand, Vladimir Putin views himself as the creator of a second Russian empire, or at least is attempting to create this second Russian empire. Interestingly enough, if you ever look at the seal of the Russian Federation, and let me go pull it up really quickly, and let's see here. Here we go. Here's the coat of arms of Russia, right here. This is the coat of arms of Russia. What's very interesting about the coat of arms of Russia is that this is literally the coat of arms, and let me go pull this up. Coat of arms of the Tsar. And let me go find that really quickly. And let me go make sure that I can get this. And here we go. And here is the coat of arms of the Romanov family of the Empire of Russia, right here. And many of y'all will know they look incredibly similar. In fact, they are literally identical. It is literally the symbol of the Russian Tsar. And what we also understand is that from prior Russian claims about what they aim to achieve inside of Eastern Europe, the Russian Federation is also wanting to reclaim Russian imperial lands that were lost after the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917. And let me go show you all that, because this will tie everything into a bit of a bigger picture, at least with what we're talking about right now. And let me see if I can get a good size picture. I tried to do this earlier in the video, and for some reason they never have a good one. Here we go. And actually, that's not a good one. That one's actually showing Bulgaria as a part of Russia. That was never really a thing, so let me see if I can try and find a good one. Russian Empire map. Let me just go pull that up instead. So here we go. This is about the best I can do. So we will pull this up right here. And this is the map of the Russian Empire as it existed in times of old, or really at least before the collapse of the Russian Empire in 1917. One thing that y'all will note, very interestingly enough, is that the Russian Empire controlled all of Ukraine, all of Moldova, all of Belarus, parts of Poland, and the Baltic states. Now, that's the most interesting thing, because if you ever listen to Russia's land ambitions or Putin's greater ambitions for Russia, he claims that he wants to see these parts of Eastern Europe brought back under direct Russian control as a part of Russia. The Baltic states, parts of Poland, Belarus, Ukraine, and Moldova. So as far as the Eastern European situation goes, Putin is not wanting to bring back the Soviet Union. He's wanting to bring back the Russian Empire and be the next czar of a Russian empire, which is an incredibly bizarre and sort of a whack thing. It's almost like the Assad family wanting to bring back Greater Assyria back in the 80s and the 90s, which was an incredibly bizarre thing. But nevertheless, this is what Putin is actually working off of inside of his head. And Ukraine is the first step, really the first head that has to roll in Putin's mind to be able to get this rolling across the board and for the Baltic states and parts of Poland to be once again brought under Russian control and to bring about this new second Russian empire of a sort. The interesting thing about that is that with the attack on the Estonian ambassador, that looked as though if that ambassador was going to be killed, it was going to create a diplomatic incident in between Estonia and the Russian Federation. And we don't really know what was going to be planned from there, but considering that it is one of the countries that is on Russia's checklist to reconquer, it seems as though this was a deliberate attempt to kill the ambassador to create some sort of a diplomatic incident. And a lot of people are talking about that specifically. The fact that this drone, without veering off course, without really even slowing down or looking that it was not trying to hit that specific floor of the building, went at full speed into the 33rd floor of the building that the Estonian ambassador was in and exploded on the exact floor that their apartment was at. A lot of people seem to be believing that that was a specific and directed targeting by the Russian Federation. That was a deliberate attempt to create a diplomatic incident. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that, and what are you thinking about that as well? Do you think, and does everyone else think, that that was an attempt to create an international incident in between NATO and Russia and largely a Baltic state in the Russian Federation? Or do you think that this was more so of a random accident and the drone didn't know where it was going, it just ended up hitting at that exact place in that exact building?
So about 78% of the audience said yes, Russia was targeting her specifically, and specifically sent the drone out to get her. And 10% said, no, we need much more intel before we can reach that conclusion. And 6% said, no, it was simply a random drone attack. And I will say that the Russians probably already knew that her apartment was in that building, and it was probably not an errant drone attack. I know some people are going to be like, well, we don't have enough information yet, so how can we reach that conclusion? And I can understand that argument, but remember though, Russia has a pretty good intelligence service. Like they pretty much suck at everything, but the one thing they don't suck at is intelligence. Like they do have some intelligence that's actually pretty verifiable and also legitimate. So they knew she was there, and they sent a drone in specifically to hit that building, either on purpose or accident. Nonetheless, it was still going for the building, and she could have been in it. It was only by chance that she was able to get out of the building in time, go to a bomb shelter, and get out of harm's way that prevented a major diplomatic incident from occurring here. Because like I said earlier, this could be much different if she was actually injured or killed in this attack, and I think that might have been Russia's goal with sending that drone in. So I'm with the 79%. I think it was a specific target of the ambassador, and I'm not really sure why they decided to go after the Estonian ambassador specifically, because of course there are several other ambassadors inside of Kyiv they could have gone after, but they chose to go after her specifically for some reason. So I'd be very curious to know why. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that it most certainly was a deliberate targeting and an attack by the drone. Many people do not know this, but the Shahed 136s are actually guided to their target, or there is an additional option that they can actually have the exact GPS coordinates and altitude input to them to the target location. Either way, this drone had direct input to make it fly into the 33rd floor of that building and directly into the one that the Estonian ambassador lived in on that exact floor. It appears that that is 100% a deliberate and directed attack by the Russians at the Estonian ambassador. I did see someone really quickly say something like, how did one drone make it through the Kyiv air defense? It wasn't just the only one. There was many others that also made it through the Kyiv air defense, hitting multiple targets around the city, some of them apartment buildings, some of them military targets that have not been disclosed, but there were multiple drones that made it through. And if you were listening a little bit earlier, you would hear that I would have said that based off the air defense reports and information that we've been getting for about 2 months now, it appears that 25% of all drones that fly towards Kyiv are able to make it through and start hitting targets inside of the city. So it's not some sort of a grand mystery or some sort of a false flag here. It was legitimately a Shahed 136 drone that had made it through, along with many others, and ended up hitting that exact building. This is something that I would have to say looks to me to be that the Russians actually did try and deliberately target this Estonian ambassador and create some sort of a diplomatic incident as a result of that. And we'll be trying to get more information as time time goes by, but it does seem fairly ironclad with the kind of story that we're getting right now. Meanwhile, we did get to see, once again backing up that this was a part of a larger attack from Russia, that just outside of the city's outskirts, the 17th Brigade of the National Guard did engage and shoot down one of the Shahed 136s that was flying towards Kyiv just an hour before the drone actually hit the building. And we're going to be muting that because they got the wonderful copyrighted music, but we can see the Ukrainian National Guard team firing tracers into the sky, trying to locate the drone and shoot it down. We can also see here some sort of a laser system. We're not exactly sure what the laser system is, but we can now see another anti-aircraft gun opening up from another truck. And we can now see that the drone has been hit. It's now burning, and it's descending rapidly to the ground and slamming down just a little whiles away, exploding in the distance. A successful interception.
Wow, it was so dark you couldn't even see where the ground was on that one. I saw it hit, and I was like, wow, the ground was right there. I thought it was like a further ways down.
Yeah, man, I was like, dang, the ground's like halfway up the screen. I was like, that's freaking crazy. But still, good to know that the Ukrainian air defense was working and was largely successful, but of course, some did make it through. Meanwhile, within the area of western Kyiv, we also got to hear very big news that U.S. contractors are going to be allowed into Ukraine as of today. The President of the United States has lifted the de facto ban on American military contractors deploying to Ukraine to help the country's military maintain and repair U.S.-provided weapon systems, particularly the F-16 and the Patriot air defense system. This is a very big step forward, as this does mean that the United States private contractors can now go into Ukraine, which has been banned over the entirety of the war, and actually help and support the Ukrainians' military efforts with the F-16 and the Patriot. While this is an incredibly good thing, it is bringing up the possible notion that the Ukrainians have not been able to effectively repair or maintain these vehicles or equipment systems at the level that would be necessary to make them 100% effective at all times. For this reason, the United States has had to step in and offer military contractors to be able to allow them a more heightened turnaround time, or an increased turnaround time, to make sure that more F-16s and more Patriot systems are available at any given moment. This could be for a multiple of reasons. We largely believe that the main reason why Ukrainian forces would not be able to effectively maintain or repair the Patriots and the F-16s is because of a general lack of training time, not really allowing the Ukrainians to get familiarized with the system, and instead of really teaching them properly, they had to rush the program and try and teach them everything and then send them back into Ukraine as quickly as they could. Nevertheless, this will be a massive step forward for the Ukrainians logistically in terms of operating Western equipment, and hopefully we will see that this will give an overall increase to the efficiency of the F-16s and Patriots that the United States has provided to Ukraine over the course of the entire war. But this does
also, Enforcer, I see some people asking a question here. It's a pretty good question. They're saying, why all of a sudden now has the ban been lifted on these military contractors? Because they could have done this before, so why did they suddenly choose to lift it right now? And my guess is, kind of like I mentioned about a night or two ago, it sounds like maybe the transition is currently underway to the new peace through strength policy that's coming into place with foreign policy, because before it was de-escalation, and now it's going to sort of turn to a more aggressive one. And I think we're seeing right here, this was one of the things that was sort of like against the de-escalation policy, was the ban here on the military contractors. So now that's being lifted, that's sort of putting the de-escalation out the window a little bit. And in my opinion, it should have never been banned in the first place. Like, we're sending over all this military equipment, but at the same time we're telling the Ukrainians we can't send over people to properly service the equipment because we're scared of Russia. But it's like, why send the equipment in the first place if we're not going to properly give them the tools they need to fix it? So it should have never been banned in the first place. So I'm glad to see it's been lifted, because that was quite a bad thing for their overall service life for those aircraft and also the other equipment.
And that is something very interesting to note, and that is something that we're trying to wonder why that happened right now. The best explanation that we can give is that there's a slight transition. Well, not a slight transition. There is a transition going on in the government right now, as a new government is going to be formed in January. Technically, in America, there's no such thing as a new government being formed. I just want to make that very clear. I kind of use terminology from the British parliamentary system, because if y'all don't know, whenever they declare an election in the UK and the results are so upsetting that there's a new prime minister and a new majority party, technically, they call that forming a new government. We don't really have anything like that here in America, but considering that every 4 years we do have a presidential election as well as an election for the House of Representatives simultaneously, sometimes it almost looks like there's the constituting of a new government here in the United States. And so I'm going to be using that terminology, although technically that is inaccurate and more so applied to a parliamentary system. Nevertheless, there is going to be a new government being formed in the United States in January, and this may be a part of the movement of a sort into this new government. It's trying to make sure that their policies are already sort of being implemented, so that way by the time this new government takes over, the momentum is kind of there for the large part. Another interesting thing that I do want to note is that I have been trying to keep, once again, as sharp an eye as I possibly can on the candidates and the options for the Secretary of Defense and let's see here, let me think, the Secretary of State. There we go. I'm sorry, everyone, I didn't have coffee tonight, so know that in advance. But nevertheless, the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense positions are still open and being considered at the moment by the President-elect. What we do understand, however, is that there are a couple of options being considered for the Secretary of Defense. One of those people is, of course, one that we brought up the other day, and let me make sure that I can get the name correct because we actually have him down on the map over here. And let's see, we actually do not have him down on the map. Matthew, I'm forgetting the name of the guy because I am not really, my brain is not working at 100% because I didn't have.
And which position was it again? It was a Secretary of State or Defense?
Secretary of Defense.
So for defense, there was a couple of different people it could be. It could be Pompeo. He's either Secretary of State or Defense. Mike Rogers is another pick as well that could be for either one of those positions. And also Richard Grenell is another possible pick as well.
And so we are hearing that there are about 3 options at this moment, and thank you for reminding me of their names, Matthew, because I was about to know their attributes, but not their names. But right now, we are seeing that out of the 3 options there are at the moment, 2 of them are actually pro-Ukrainian, pretty much all the way. Pompeo and Mike Rogers both have openly been pro-Ukrainian supporters throughout most of the war, if not the entirety of the war. And so it does seem as though right now we are shooting a 2 out of 3 chance, the best way to put it, that there will be a pro-Ukrainian Secretary of Defense put into place. That does mean that will go a lot into the considerations and actions made by the United States abroad in support of Ukraine, because the Secretary of Defense is one of the major people involved in advising the president or making up a plan on what the United States will be doing in regards to Ukraine. We also do understand that Pompeo is in support of Israel and Taiwan simultaneously, and have openly stated that at many different times throughout the recent years. We've also seen that he openly supports Taiwanese independence, which is a pretty radical step forward. I'll not lie, like there's really no way to go about that, because we have a bit of a status quo that we've been ensuring with Taiwan for about 50 years. But declaring that Taiwan is an independent country and supporting their independence is actually, on a diplomatic level, moving to the absolute extremes of supporting Western interests, really to the point that it may incite some sort of a conflict without the necessity for having one, at least at this moment, the best way to put that. But nevertheless, it is a very interesting thing. We are trying to keep an eye on it and keep all of y'all apprised of what that will be looking like in the future, because based off of the statements that we are getting at the moment and the rumors that are circling around about who may be the next Secretary of State or the Secretary of Defense, depending on who that person is, that will largely give us an idea of what the tempo will be around the rest of the Western world. And it may be for the better, or it may be status quo, hopefully, and we're expecting that this will hopefully not be the case, it will be for the worse. You know, for now, we always like to be optimistic, and we will be waiting to see who is actually selected for that position. But right now, it sounds like generally most of the people being considered seem to be pro-Ukrainian, at least in this particular... Go ahead.
Well, you know, it's a really good sign already that Zelensky's been having a lot of conversations with the incoming administration, which is a very good sign as well, that there is an open dialogue between the two, because it could have been, you know, sort of worse than that. It could have been no dialogue whatsoever, and I was kind of worried about that for a minute, but at least the talks are ongoing for negotiations on Ukraine aid in the future. So that's a promising sign, because it could be much worse, but it sounds to me like at least there is some movement and also some leeway when it comes to giving more Ukraine aid.
it seems like there may be, and I do want to make sure that a lot of people know this, there is a lot involved in who's picked for different positions within the executive agencies, or who fills certain positions in the cabinet. That really does have a lot to weigh in on how things are done around the world. And largely the people who are picked for these positions, the stances that they have now are the stances that they are being picked for. So if we ever see that, for example, Pompeo, or the other option that we're hearing at the moment out of the three, which is Mike Rogers, is selected, we will largely understand that the United States will still be leaning into a pro-Ukraine stance, or a posturing at the moment, and will most likely continue support to Ukraine. At the exact same time, we still understand that the Congress is overwhelmingly in support for Ukraine, as we have seen that pretty much every single spending bill in the past has been approved with a near three-quarters majority, or a two-thirds majority at a minimum. And so for that reason, with the support of the Congress and possibly the selection of a pro-Ukrainian Secretary of Defense or a Secretary of State, we may have a good chance of seeing that Ukraine support continues, or maybe even hopefully increases over these next few short years. But nevertheless, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. Also, Michael Thomas said, never heard of Mike Rogers. Mike Rogers, I actually do have a little bit of information on Mike Rogers really quickly. Mike Rogers, crazily enough, is actually a House of Representatives member of Congress from the state of Alabama in the 3rd Congressional District, which I can actually show y'all right here. And so let me show y'all this. And this is the 3rd Congressional District. This is a very interesting one in Alabama because it actually borders our congressional district right here, which we're in the Shelby County area. But nevertheless, it borders ours. And from what we understand, he also has held a pretty interesting position at the moment, as he is actually the ranking member of the House Homeland Security Committee. Well, he was up until 2021. So it seems as though if he's pro-Ukrainian, we may be seeing that he is also a decent pick for the role. Of course, trying to be as optimistic as possible, but those are our current candidates that we're starting to hear rumors about at the moment, possibly being picked for the role. So we will be waiting to see what actually that turns into. Hopefully it will be a good thing. But nevertheless, moving on from that and the possible candidates for those roles, we are going to be moving on into some more interesting news that we've been able to hear inside of the Kursk Oblast today. And I mean incredibly interesting news. The Russians appear to be running out of small arms. Now, that is a pretty big statement to make right there, and we did put it in the title, but we are getting enough interesting evidence at this point that they probably are. We do know that the Ukrainians do not have a large amount of weapons. Generally, they don't. And that's why we've seen that there's been a load of foreign aid, and we've also seen that there's been a massive industrial revolution of a sort in Ukraine to be able to mass produce Western designs, such as AR-style rifles, for Ukrainian military service. We've also seen a wide variety of other weapons, such as the CZ 2, the FAL, of course, variants of the AK, although those are starting to largely be phased out. But generally, we see that the Ukrainians are always looking for weapons wherever they can come from, and that's because they always need any and every bit of support, even in the small arms category, because the Ukrainians industrially do not have the ability, at least at the moment and throughout most of the war, to be able to mass produce enough small arms to be able to field a large enough infantry force on the field. We are starting to see that the Russians are finally running into this issue, and it does seem as though that they are running out of guns. The Russian Federation has never had to get firearms from other countries throughout the entirety of the war. We have always seen that the Russian Federation has used AK-12s, AK-74s, PKM machine guns, I think PKP machine guns as well, Dishkas, NSVs. Everything has been made in-house, or at least was built during Soviet times, and then kept around and then brought back into service during the modern-day conflict. For the first, and I mean the first time ever, a new gun has appeared inside the Russian Federation, and it is one that I do not care at all for. I think this thing is terrible. It looks horrendous. It's just ugly. I hate the thing. And I'm going to show it to y'all, but I have to keep it in mind for all of y'all. This thing ain't the prettiest gun out there in the world, and I don't think it ever really will be. It is the Type 73 machine gun. The Type 73 from North Korea is finally being seen inside of the Kursk Oblast.
Oy vey, that's a rough one. I never like the guns with like the magazine coming out of the top of it like that. It always looks so wrong. It's like, just put it below the gun, like the traditional style. Why do you have to put it above it?
I don't know why, man. Like, you know what this thing looks like? It literally looks like a complete ripoff of the Bren gun from World War II. Like, what the hell is this thing? They are ugly. Like, I don't like the Bren either. I'm so sorry to everyone who's from Britain who loves the Bren. I just think the thing looks weird, especially because of the top-fed magazine. Like, I just hate that design. I think it's just horrendous looking, and also it means that the sight has to be canted over to the side of the gun. I just don't like that. Like, the only gun I like that has that top-fed magazine is the Owen SMG from Australia, and that's because this thing literally is garbage. Like, it was made pretty much out of garbage. It was made to return to garbage, but it did its job, and it was a great gun, and it was used all the way up until Vietnam by the Australians, so it wasn't that bad. A lot of people really liked it, but nevertheless, these things...
You know what this looks like? It looks like, they got someone's like a class project or something, and they had one from the prior year, and they said, oh, I'm going to resubmit this for this year and make the same gun. But yet, we have to make it a tad bit different, so we're going to change the words around a little bit, so that way the teacher can't tell. So we're going to put the magazine on top of the gun, block all the iron sights and everything, just so we can make it look different like our own original design, because it really does look like a copy.
Yeah, and also another thing, it's like, why can't they enter the modern day where everyone else uses a belt-fed machine gun? It's like, this is stupid, because like this thing maybe has like 30 rounds in that mag, maybe, I don't even know the exact number, but once it runs out, you have to reload the mag. Like with a belt-fed machine gun, you can get like 100 rounds in a bag, or really just a box, and fire off those 100 rounds. You can keep sustained fire for a lot longer, because you're not having to take all the effort to switch out mags, reload them, and then keep laying down the fire. This thing is just horrendous, and it's even obsolete in North Korea. They phased these things out, I think, about 2 years ago, technically, at least according to the official statements. But still, here's another one, if you wanted to see it. And here's a North Korean soldier firing a Type 73 from the hip, which I guess is very effective. I don't know. I'm not anyone who shot guns a lot. Y'all tell me if that's effective or not. I'm kidding. I've shot a lot of guns. That's not effective. But what do you got, Matthew?
Also, it's like they didn't even like shape the wood stock like the furniture on the back. It's like a chunk of wood. It's like not even shaped like a proper stock or anything. It's just like they said, how do you make this like the most lazy like woodwork ever, like on the back of a gun? They said just chop a block off and like just shape it to where it fits on the back of the receiver, and you'll be fine.
Dude, it really does, man. And what's even worse, this picture makes it look even more dorky, man, because they really like emphasize that mag. It's like this thing just looks stupid. I hate the thing. I really do. I cannot stand this thing. And also, by the way, I forgot to tell you all this. In North Korea, they also have this in Russia, but really in North Korea, they like to show this off a lot because I just saw a picture of it, so I'll bring it up. If you're a model soldier in the Korean People's Army and you're like a hero, you get these custom engraved light machine guns if you're a Type 73 machine gunner. So you get these really gaudy looking, stupid, silver encrusted Type 73s with these wood carved stocks. Like the whole thing is so stupid. Let me see if I can show y'all another one. Well, this is an AK that's had the same treatment done to it. It's coated in silver or nickel or something. These things are freaking ugly. Like, I don't even know why they do this. It's just so dumb. And also, is that a Stanek mag? Because, like, I don't know about this, Matthew, but it almost looks like a normal AK-74 mag in this thing, but at the same time, for some reason... No, that is a normal 5.45 mag, so that's a normal AK-74. I had to really look at that for a second just to make sure, but still,
I like how the North Koreans, they don't have food, they don't have Twinkies, they don't have like running water, but damn, we're gonna nickel plate the AK. Like we gotta have the chrome AK and be like warlords or something like that, because if we can't have food, at least we can have a nice gun. That's a nice flex.
Man, in North Korea, they said drip or starve, and buddy, they're swimming. Man, dude. Also, by the way, this guy needs to go get checked out by a doctor. His eyes are about to pop out of his head. Also, who the hell is that? Is that Porky Pig back there, dude? Look at him.
Hibbity. That's all, folks.
Dude, he's about to go out there, and he's about to, like, in the helmet. Why is it so far back? It's like protecting the back of, the nape of his head. It's not even, like, protecting his actual, like, forehead or anything. Dude, these guys actually look pretty rough. I'm not going to lie. What about these? You know what? Let me look at this a little bit again. You know, Matthew, what's interesting about this? None of them actually look like they're familiar with the guns. You know what I mean? Like, for some reason, just a little bit about how they're holding it, it's just a little too weird. For some reason, like, I don't know how to explain it. I can't explain it, but it is coming off a little bit weird.
I think the Ukrainians can explain it. They can tell you that today they all kind of effed around and found out, I think. They got slaughtered.
Yeah, you know, like this. They're like, pose for a picture where it looks like we're in combat. They're like, okay, so you have the machine gunners up front, which makes no sense because they're usually the machine gunner is kind of behind everyone, laying down suppressing fire so that way they can advance. And then all four of these guys are just aiming over their heads. It's like, I don't get this at all. I don't understand North Korea one bit when it comes to their military. But also, if you think that this was a standalone, like this thing was just a standalone, right? No, 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 no. No, they showed up in mass. Like, we got another picture, and it was literally crates of these things just sitting around. They're literally shipping these things in.
They're trying to get rid of those ugly things. Nobody else wants them.
I guess no one does. I guess they don't even want them. But these things are the worst. I hate them so much. And I guess that's why they're trying to get rid of them. And there's the picture that we just saw a second ago. But oh my god, I hate them. I really do. I just think these are the worst machine guns in the modern world. They're so dumb. They do fire the 7.62 by 54R cartridge, which is fairly standard for a Russian machine gun or a Soviet machine gun, but I just cannot tell y'all how much I hate these things, and they're bringing them in mass numbers. But what that is telling us is that the Russians are running out of light machine guns, because the Russians would not accept these things in mass numbers. They suck. If they had the ability to produce their own light machine guns to keep up with the loss of light machine guns, they would rather do that instead, and we've been seeing them do that for about 3 years now, and now they're not. And that's giving us a very clear indication here that the Russian Federation is running out of light machine guns, maybe even running out of small arms as a whole. So I would have to give a pretty good assertion here. The Russians are on a pretty bad condition, not only on the equipment side of things with the tanks and such, but even on the small arms side of things, things are starting to get fairly stretched. And so hopefully we will see that the Russians really do start to run out of machine guns, small arms as a whole, tanks, artillery shells, and all the like, and the ability to transport them, because once that happens, the war is pretty much a done deal for Ukraine's favor. And so with that, I hope that does address that little bit of information fairly well, but we still do have a lot more in the Kursk Oblast. We have 3 other clips. We were able to see that today, a Russian BTR-82 in the middle of an assault drove over an anti-tank mine. That's never good for one's longevity, and the general surgeon has usually told us to avoid this kind of a thing. But look! Oh! And there went a piece. A little Reese's piece.
They didn't need that anyway. That was just a spare piece. You know, they built a lot of redundancies into those Russian vehicles.
Man, they really did. Look at all those redundancies out there in the field. I can count 4 of them, and then a whole bunch of other ones just sitting around. Look at them.
Yeah, you don't need the axle. You don't need the hubcap. You don't need any of that. The Russians just need pure will, and they'll be okay.
And also, you don't even need crew, man. You can just scatter the crew around in the fields nearby, and I'm sure it'll be fine. Like, I actually think that'll inspire others to fight even harder. But meanwhile,
yeah, you got to save the dog meat for the rest of us.
Man, poor little yellow spits, man. That's literally just a Shiba Inu. But moving on from that, we did get to see new drones in use today by the 253rd Assault Battalion of the 129th TDF. They got some new drones today from the Wild Hornets.
Хочемо подякувати хлопцям з Диких Шершнів за пташки. Вони ж нас знову радують. Королева і 5 бомберів десяток вже виконують завдання на Курщині. Так що ждіть цікавих відео. Гарного дня.
That is a huge battery on that drone, by the way. Like, I don't know what the milliamps on that battery is, but that's crazy.
Dude, that's the extendo range drone right there, man. This thing flies around the world and back and then needs a recharge with a battery like that. It's like, dang, man, they ripped that thing straight out of a Tesla and then slapped it on a drone. But also, another interesting thing that we got to see near to the direction of Bolshoi Soldatskoy is the Ukrainian Special Forces in the area clearing a building. Y'all want to see the Ukrainians clear a building these days? I wish I could play all the audio, but it was covered over in cringy music. I hate to tell y'all that. I'm not going to hide that anymore. I think the music's cringe, and I'm not going to lie about it. So we can see them clearing a building, though, which is not cringe. It's pretty cool. We now see
nice gun, by the way. Very nice.
Man, I'm telling you, man, they are kitted to the nines in the Ukrainian Special Forces. Oh, we can see this guy with a PKP right there, laying down the heat. Clearing the building. Oh, a picture of Putin. Why, great heavens. It looks like they cleared him out. But still, pretty neat to see, and good to know that the Ukrainian Special Forces have been doing good work in the Kursk region. But that's the end of that little clip right there, and from what we understand, there's not really a lot for us to tell y'all more than this. The North Koreans and the Russians are still conducting offensives against Ukrainian forces in this area. The Ukrainians have successfully held their ground, and we have been able to hear that from Ukrainian intelligence today, the Russians and the North Koreans took fairly significant losses in the failed attack that was conducted. We were also able to get confirmation from the Ukrainian intelligence today that this was the first time that they had ever seen concerted offensive action by the North Koreans, and it did result in complete failure and very high losses. We will probably be getting video and picture evidence of that failed attack within the next day or two, where we can actually prove and confirm that the North Koreans were involved in the attack and were wiped out in fairly large numbers. But it is once again lining up exactly with the analysis that we made on this channel, that due to poor North Korean trainings, strategies, and doctrines, the North Koreans are going to be completely combat ineffective once they arrived on the front lines, and that does mean that our analysis stood the test of time until they actually engaged the Ukrainians, and it was proven that they were very poor fighters, or at least a very poor fighting force, the best way to put it. But moving on out of the Kursk Oblast, it's now time for us to move on over into the US of A, because we've actually been able to hear some very interesting information coming out of the United States today. And this actually will springboard us right back into Europe to start talking about what happened in Amsterdam, and then also to talk about what's going on in the Middle East, and then get back into Ukraine. But before we get into this, I do want to make sure to let all of y'all know that we are going to be covering this, of course, as non-politically as possible. This did involve a political figure today, but I do want to make it very clear to people that the Lee Spring Army and largely a good citizen of the United States will always back and support our democratic institutions and whatever their will may be. Over the past 3 years, we have not made a single gripe or complaint about the current sitting president, saying that the current sitting president was a devil or that they were an angel. We have just stated that that is the president of the nation, and that whatever they say, largely the nation has to start working towards as best as possibly so, even though sometimes that may not be in the West's interest, or maybe sometimes we may even voice some concern about our ability to prosecute our objectives in other areas around the world, such as the Middle East, Ukraine, and East Asia. Nevertheless, the president is the president. The current sitting president and the upcoming president will be the president of this republic, regardless whether people like it or not. And the stance of the Lee Spring Army is that any actions taken aggressively against the current president and the president-elect and then the future president are actions that are an affront to the entire republic and every citizen inside of it as a whole, as these presidents both represent the will of the nation as it came forward every 4 years, and hundreds of millions of people elected these people to be the representatives of this country. And we've been able to hear some very unfortunate information today about one of those specific people, specifically the president-elect. We've been able to hear that the intelligence agencies of the United States have been working around the clock, day in and day out, to make sure that any threats against the United States and any threats against any of our citizens is thwarted as best as possible. And we were able to hear that once again, another situation was avoided today that could have ended in near catastrophe. Apparently, the Islamic Republic of Iran has once again tried to spurn another assassination attempt against the president-elect, which has been thwarted today by U.S. intelligence services, which were able to uncover the plot. And we've also been able to hear in later news today that the specific suspect has been apprehended by authorities and is currently being held by the U.S. federal government and the U.S. federal agencies involved.
And also, you know, something else interesting as well, Enforcer, about the fella is I don't know too much about him. I did just take a quick glance at it earlier today on Twitter when I saw his image. He does not appear to be an Iranian national. From what I can tell, it looks like maybe the Iranian government got in contact with maybe a U.S. citizen or someone else over here that was not Iranian, and they set up this whole scheme here to try to assassinate the president-elect. And at the time, he was not the president-elect when this happened. He was actually just a candidate. So that he's become the president-elect, but at the time that this whole scheme was going off and also being set up by Iran, he was just a candidate. So they're just now getting around to actually prosecuting the guy and going after him. But it was confirmed, though, that apparently the IRGC was the direct coordinator of this whole scheme.
And we are once again seeing that this is the third attempt, I have to make that clear, this is the third attempt against this specific person, the president-elect of the United States, once a presidential candidate just a little while ago, and this is the third time that it's happened. Of course, the United States intelligence agencies have been on the ball on the other two times and have also been able to uncover and stop those plots before they were brought to full realization. We have also seen that the current president of the United States, of course, standing for the interests and representing representation of the entirety of the Republic, has condemned all three of these attempts and have stated that the Islamic Republic of Iran will face a very harsh reprisal if they were to ever conduct any harm to either of the presidential candidates or the current president-elect, as the situation is at the moment. We are understanding that this is, of course, obviously going to continue to sour U.S.-Iranian relations, and not only that, it is clearly showing what the Islamic Republic of Iran is. It is a hostile nation, not only to Israel, which many people like to make it out to where they only have a problem with Israel. They have a problem with the Western world at large. And the Western world at large is going to constantly be targeted and attacked by the Islamic Republic of Iran and any of its bad actors as long as the Islamic Republic continues to exist. We must make sure that this country is quarantined as much as possible, that it's treated as badly as it possibly can be, and eventually, hopefully, we can dismantle the Islamic Republic of Iran's government and see about bringing forward a more Western-aligned government of a sort inside of this region. Because otherwise, these sorts of attacks and these sorts of attempts will continue. And this was not the only one that has been brought up over the past 24 hours, as we were able to hear that the current sitting president of the United States did send condolences to the Jewish people of Amsterdam who were attacked last night. And we were able to get this directly from the current president's Twitter account today. The anti-Semitic attacks on Israeli soccer fans in Amsterdam are despicable and echo dark moments in history when Jews were persecuted. We've been in touch with Israeli and Dutch officials and appreciate the Dutch authorities' commitment to holding the perpetrators accountable. We must relentlessly fight anti-Semitism wherever it emerges. And this was a very good statement by the President of the United States today, as we were able to hear of a very unfortunate incident that did occur in Amsterdam overnight while we were actually covering the news here on this show. We were not going to cover it at that point, as we did not have a large enough amount of information and details out yet to be able to understand what was going on, but I will now tell y'all what the details that we have and what has exactly happened, considering that this is a more fragile civil incident than one involving multiple different countries conducting actions against each other. Inside the city of Amsterdam, there was a football game, well, we would call it America's soccer game, that was going on at the time. Two of the teams were involved. One of them was largely an Israeli team that was backed up by Jewish Israeli fans. Some people stated, and there has been clips showing, that this group of fans did have, of course, as usual, a group of football hooligans following around with them. And the football hooligans began to chant certain kinds of interesting chants that aren't necessarily favorable or savory. But I have to make a quick statement that that is no reason to even try and excuse the actions that would happen afterwards, as anyone from Europe or anyone who's ever seen football hooligans will know that they're literally all like that, no matter where they're from. British football hooligans are like that, French football hooligans are like that, and so making a special exception to say that the Jewish football hooligan fans from Israel were also doing this seems to be a little bit weird in trying to justify the actions that would happen not long after. Nevertheless, the football game went forward and then ended, and all of the fans of the game began to disperse throughout the city to be able to make it back to their hotels and, of course, sleep the night until they were able to get transport to wherever they were going the next day. In the course of that, a mob descended into the city, and we largely understand that their identity was those of Middle Eastern migrants that had been brought into the Netherlands several years ago that began to roam around as a literal mob, finding any Israeli or Jewish people that they could and attacking them and practically beating them, sometimes near to death. We are not able to show y'all the clips of the actual beatings that occurred in the streets of Amsterdam, but I am able to show y'all this short clip showing that these people clearly were largely aligned with an Iranian agenda, at least. And so here's the clip. The mob traveled around pretty much beating anyone and everyone who looked Jewish or Israeli in sight, no joke. The Israelis had to send up a security team to evacuate their citizens inside of the Netherlands, and we have been able to hear that Dutch authorities started to work immediately to arrest somewhere around 70 to 80 people who were involved in the beatings at this point, although we can clearly tell that there were far many more involved in the beatings that occurred inside of Amsterdam just last night. Apparently they were pretty organized as well, as I heard at some point that some of these people that were going around
around beating the Israelis in the streets, they were actually like stopping and working in groups to get IDs from the people they suspected to be Israeli citizens, and they were checking the IDs to confirm they were Israeli, and then they would commence to beating the absolute hell out of them to almost to a pulp. Based on some of the videos I saw, they're so bad we can't even show them on the stream, but it sounded like they were somewhat organized with their whole attempt to go and hunt these people down.
Yeah, it was a very unfortunate sort of an incident, and it is very interesting to see that the specific identity of these people who were involved in this attack were migrants. We largely understand who were brought from Syria many years ago that would most likely have some sort of radical ideology already carried along with them as they were fleeing the country during the Arab Spring. And of course, to explain that would be a whole thing in its own right, but the Arab Spring was pretty much where radicalism pretty much tipped the scales in the entirety of the Islamic world pretty much at the same time in the early 2010s, and the entire region devolved into pretty much a state of anarchy for a short while until it was brought under control about a year later. Although in this instance of Syria, it's still going on to this day in the form of the Syrian civil war. But nevertheless, the situation does not look good. And from what we are also understanding, these people seem to be a lot more susceptible than most would be to being spurned into this attack, as we've been able to get information overnight that this group was in fact spurned to action, this violent action, by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and of course that means the Islamic Republic of Iran directly coordinating and launching this attack on the Israeli citizens who were in Amsterdam at this time. It's starting to lead to a lot of questions in the Western world, specifically in Amsterdam, about what should be done as a result of this, as it does appear that this sort of a thing may actually start to happen all over the place, wherever any of these people who may be sympathetic to the Iranian cause, or at least Iranian proxies, could be. But we don't really know what exactly will be going on with that in the future, but nevertheless, it is a very concerning situation. Still, at the same time, while this was going on in Europe, Europe was also battling with another fairly large question, as the EU says that they're not considering Ukraine giving up territory to Russia. And a lot of people are wondering, will the EU step up if the United States aid ends? We don't believe here on this channel that American aid will end, but it is a question that a lot of people have, and it's worth considering, seeming that so many people have the same question. And so, Matthew, what are people thinking about that, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so we have heard in the background that there have been rumors floating around, and right now they are just rumors. There's no confirmed fact of any of this. It's simply the news media running with it, and right now we would prefer to operate on concrete fact instead of these simple rumors. But they are floating around in the background that maybe the new U.S. admin might want to have a peace agreement in Ukraine, where basically the conflict gets frozen and Ukraine totally gives up their NATO admission for at least 20 years. So apparently the EU got wind of that, and they said that they're not considering Ukraine giving up any territory to Russia. And the big question, like the enforcer said, is will the EU step up if U.S. aid comes to an end? So 52% said yes, the EU would step up 100%, while 24% said they would partially step up, but not completely. And 14% said no, the EU is unable to step up. And I would say that the EU is totally capable and able to step up, but I wonder if they could get enough unity among the EU states to actually pull together enough support to offset the loss of the U.S. aid going to Ukraine. That might be a bit of a challenge because, like I said, they have the money to do it, but do they have the willingness to actually step in and replace the U.S.? Because right now the U.S. has provided almost half of the support going to Ukraine from the international community, and that is a huge void to replace. So I'm kind of leaning toward the 24%. I think they would partially step up, and maybe they might step up all the way in time, but not initially. So I'm definitely with the 24%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would also have to be with the 24% because from what we've seen so far, the Europeans as a whole, at least on a governmental level, have been very slow to react to the Ukraine war, and even still are moving at somewhat of a slower pace. We have seen that some countries have been increasing their military spending, but even with some of the increases, for example with Germany, they still have not met the recommended 2% GDP spending requirement laid out by NATO that everyone is supposed to be following as an act of goodwill. They still haven't really reached that. I think they've reached about 1.8 or 1.9, but even still, they haven't reached the 2% quota. This is showing us that the Europeans may not be ready enough, at least with an arms industry or an arms stockpile, to be able to support the Ukrainians immediately. It would take a lot of ramping up and a lot of concerted efforts by the European nations to be able to do that. Not saying that it's out of the question that they couldn't, they certainly could, but it wouldn't be something that would be immediate. And so if for some reason the United States did stop supporting Ukraine, it would probably take a pretty good amount of time, maybe a year or a little bit longer than that, before a larger amount of support actually started to flow into Ukraine, at least from what I would see right now. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, but I also want to make this fairly clear as well, that there is no indication yet clearly that the United States is going to stop supporting Ukraine. I want to make that very clear because I see a lot of people talking about America isn't even trustworthy. We can just turn our backs. We don't even know that yet. I want to make this very clear to many people. Right now, everything that's being said out in the world right now on either side about what's going on with the incoming presidency is all rumor. It's hearsay. There's no actual fact or validity to any of it. And a lot of what's being said could be hype talk, and it will never end up coming into realization. That's usually the fact with that sort of a thing. And I don't really know why a lot of people are like feeding into this whole and I'm also saying this very fairly. A lot of people are feeding into the whole, oh, it's going to be great, sunshines and rainbows, all wars are going to end and everyone's going to get along, it's going to be kumbaya around the world. Or there's the other one where everyone goes, oh my god, the purge is coming, and it's like one thing or the other. It's going to be down the middle. Like, it's not going to be either one on both extremes, just to make sure that we address this as non-politically as possible. It's not going to go that way at all. We will probably see the Ukraine still get supported because reality is a lot different than just talking. A lot of people have a lot of nice things to say. Like a lot of people say, I'm going to become a millionaire, or I'm going to become famous, or I'm going to, change the world. And a lot of people don't end up doing that. It would be great if we could believe everything that everyone said, because then you would know exactly what's about to happen. But the reality is a lot different than what a lot of people say. And I reminded everyone of this last night, and I'm going to keep reminding people of this again, because I just feel like this is very important these days. There were the two presidents that got us into both world wars, both said that they were going to keep us out of war or they were going to bring peace to the world. They said one or the other. And then we got involved in the two world wars anyways. Woodrow Wilson literally ran in 1916 on the campaign slogan, he kept us out of war. And then a year after he got elected for a second term, we went to war with Germany in World War I. And then FDR said, I'm going to keep America out of World War II because it's none of our business. And then we ended up getting in war because we embargoed Japan, pissed them off enough where they bombed our fleet in Pearl Harbor. And then we went to war with them and Germany at the same time. Like, just because someone says something does not mean that that's going to be the way it is. And I want people to know that somewhat clearly, because it really just is kind of annoying me at this point how everything went from being totally fine to something changes a little bit. It's not going to be that big in reality. And then if some people want to act like the world is over. Like, I get it. Like, people really are into politics. I know this would have gone the other way if the other person was elected as well. But it's always annoying to me how someone can get elected and everyone acts like everyone's going to die. Like, what's crazy is that I'm only 22 years old. I have lived enough of a life to see that every single time a president has been elected, the side that lost said it's going to be the end of the world, and then another 4 years passes, and then we have another election, and then someone else is elected, and then it's the end of the world again until another 4 years passes, and then someone else is elected. Nothing is going to end the world. Ukraine will continue to be supported, things will probably be fine, and there's no reason to act like it's going to be the absolute end of the world. That's the best way I can address that. If you disagree with that, I'm sorry, but that's how it actually works. Like, if you don't believe me, just look at the past 4 years and the past 4 years before that. The world kept going, things largely almost went the same, and hopefully things might get better, probably will stay status quo. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And with that, Matthew, I understand that we actually have a couple of interesting questions. And so what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so our first super chat of the night is going to go to none other than K-Dub Janky. And thank you very much, Mr. Janky, for that $50 donation. And we appreciate that very much. That's massive support. And Mr. Janky said, Ukraine was huge asset to the USSR, farming, energy, aviation, shipping, etc. And America can lead the charge in getting this asset. And is Ukraine the next Japan, Germany, or South Korea? Because Ukraine freedom, number one, and corporate interest is number two.
And I thank you so much for the support, KW Janky, and that is a very interesting question. And that is one that I have to say largely is fairly true. Most of the time, whenever we incorporate a country into the Western world, it ends up benefiting the United States, and it also ends up benefiting that host country as well. We largely work off of a mutualist sort of relationship in the Western world whenever we incorporate a new country into it, and it's not a parasitic sort of relationship where they either leech off America or we leech off of them. It's always a mutualistic one that usually benefits everyone involved. With Ukraine, there is a lot resource-wise that could be brought into the Western world in the future. For one, the agriculture is wealthily abundant and fairly cheap, and that could greatly help out in the Western world in some areas where food is not necessarily a common thing. Although, to be entirely honest, while I was saying that, I was like, well, food is a really common thing in the Western world. We're really the only part of the world that has consistent food security. Other areas of the world really don't have that all the time, or it's right on the edge of being food insecure. We're really the ones where it's always food secure. So the Ukrainians may bring an agricultural edge, but as far as Ukraine is concerned, it will be their more so specialized industries that would bring some kind of a benefit to the rest of the Western world. Now, there are a few in Ukraine. In actually thinking about it, there's not that many, but there are some, and they can be developed and grown with a great deal of investment in the future and probably become a pretty large part of the West as a whole. So I would generally say that agriculturally, generally because their food is so abundant and so cheap that it's actually almost considered predatory whenever it hits the rest of the Western market, no joke, they probably wouldn't contribute a lot agriculturally. That probably would still be exported to other countries around the world. But if we're talking about industrially, there is a decent amount of room for them to grow there. They are resource rich in terms of natural gas and also other raw materials, which could continuously be mined or at least produced, and that could start to increase the Ukrainian GDP. Another thing that really does increase a national GDP is being specialized in some of the most modern, advanced, or luxurious kinds of goods to be produced, and usually being well diversified in terms of the domestic market as well. A monolithic economy is never a good one, and there are great examples of that. Cuba is probably the best. Fidel Castro would have never risen to power inside of Cuba if the entire Cuban economy was not reliant on the monolithic sugar industry that kept the nation alive. Once the price of sugar collapsed in the 1920s and the 1930s because of the American Great Depression, the entirety of Cuba went into a permanent and never-ending depression that they've never even escaped to this day, even after the great Fidel Castro saved them from the clutches of wicked capitalism and imperialism. It still didn't help them out at all. And so going off of that, you can clearly see a monolithic economy is never a good idea. Russia and Iran are actually both monolithic economies as well, because most of their economic activity comes from their oil industries. Most Middle Eastern countries are also like that as well. But with Ukraine, there is room for them to diversify. They can be a producer of natural gas. They can also be a producer if some of their larger metallurgical plants are reconstructed of metallurgical components, which are always in a demand in the Western world at cheap prices, and Ukraine could be one of those providers. We could also see that they could be a provider of possibly more advanced computer components. We could see that some of the cottage industries that Ukraine has right now, like the cottage industry relating to their drone production, could end up being a very big thing in the future, being able to produce cheap and inexpensive drones for search and rescue efforts and such things like that. Usually you can start to really knock the price tags pretty high up the chain with those kinds of products, and that could start to bring a great deal of money into Ukraine, and not only that, bring a great deal of value to the West, because even though the Ukrainians will be jacking the prices up, it will still be relatively cheap compared to what we normally buy here in the West. So in my opinion, I do believe, through a litany of different kinds of investments that the West will be making into Ukraine, that it will be beneficial not only to America, as we will be making money off of those investments, and also it will be beneficial for the Ukrainians because it will be bringing them into economic prosperity that they've never seen before. And it doesn't take a lot of explanation or a lot of talking for me to really prove that. Just look at the GDP of any country in Eastern Europe that got out of the Warsaw Pact or the Soviet Union and joined the West, and and just look at their GDP skyrocket over the past 20 to 30 years, and that is great enough example of its own of what the Western world's able to bring. Hell, even better, go over to Taiwan and South Korea, which used to be literally desolate hellscapes for the large part economically, and look at them now. They are modern, really paradises for the large part compared to what they once were, and economically are wildly successful and integral parts of American success and their own success as well. So in my opinion, I would certainly say the Ukrainians do have a future where they could turn into the next South Korea, the next Germany, the next Poland, or the next Taiwan. There certainly is a good amount of potential there for that, and that's why it's also good to make sure to support Ukraine, because that's another country in the fold that not only will be bringing more money into America's pockets and the greater West's pockets, but it'll be bringing more money into the Ukrainian pockets as well. It's a general win-win for everyone if they start moving on into the Western sphere. And so with that,
I'm with Julian in the live chat. Kuchulian said, I think that after the war, there's a great chance that Ukraine will become one of the leading producers of arms and weapons. And I agree with that. Like, I think so. It's really out of necessity, too. Like, Ukraine may or may not have wanted to go into the defense industry, but just out of necessity and having to innovate to basically fight this war against Russia, they have built up a tremendous arms industry with the drones and all kinds of other things as well. And they even have foreign manufacturers coming into their country to develop weapons and things like that. So, in my opinion, they could be like a mini Israel in Europe. That could be what Ukraine turns into. And there's a lot of money to be made in the defense industry, and that could strongly bolster Ukraine's economy after the fact if they start exporting a ton of military weapons.
and also one thing I do want to show y'all is some proof of what I'm claiming. Look at Poland's GDP just as an example. This is after, right here, let me go right down here, 1990 is about the time they left the Warsaw Pact and became an independent country, and their GDP at that point was a middling $65.9 billion. Their economy was actually $10 billion smaller than Ukraine's when it declared independence in 1991. Just to give you all an idea of their starting point. And now they're up to an amazing economic value of $811 billion US, which is around a 130%. Well, actually, it's not a 130%. It's about a 1,000% increase from their original GDP number, really around 1,200% increase from where they were at in 1991 when they exited the Soviet Union, really the Warsaw Pact. And then later on, I believe it was around 1995 or so, they joined NATO, and they also started to, I believe, get towards moving into the EU. And once they joined the EU, and also really the rest of the West's economic institutions, Poland skyrocketed in wealth and success. You can also see the same thing said for South Korea. South Korea has been economically successful as well, and while they have been slowing down in recent years, one can see that after a while, once the 1985, I think it was the 1985 or 86 Olympics came through, and the world saw, the Western world at least saw, that South Korea was a modern and successful country, at least at that point. Loads of investors went into South Korea, and their economy skyrocketed from 1986 from $116 billion all the way up to a whopping 1.73 trillion that it, well, 1.7 trillion that it is today, pretty much being the same size as the Russian economy across the entirety of the Russian Federation, which is pretty shocking when you think about it. But still, that gives you an idea of what the West economically can do for a country. You don't see that kind of success for a country like, say, Belarus, which is pretty much in the Russian sphere. Now, let me go see if I can find that for y'all. Here is the Belarusian GDP. It started in the 1990s at 9.2 billion. And they've got up to a whopping 71 billion. So they're fighting down in the peanut gallery right now for money. I don't really think it's going to be working out for them anytime in the future. And you can also see that Moldova, which is neutrally aligned and doesn't really get a lot of benefits of the Western world, pretty much has a middling economy that really isn't going anywhere. In reality, it's growing slightly, but not really by a lot. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. It's just showing raw graphs to prove what the West can do for a country and really what they can do for us, because while I'm showing all of these GDP growth charts, it's very important to remember the Mac Daddy of the GDP charts, which is the great old US of A. Oh, buddy, I love looking at our GDP chart because it's literally just never-ending success. The only time that there was ever a little divot was in 2008 and also in 2020 due to, the whole Wuhan whirlybird thing. But beyond that, the economy just rapidly skyrockets in growth. I mean, it's insane, really, because in 2023, The Chinese are still down there, man. The Chinese have not grown since 2021. They're still stuck in the 17 billions. We've reached nearly $28 trillion almost in national GDP, which is absolutely incredible.
The plateauing of the Chinese economy, I guess you could call it Evergrande. I guess you could say it's a very grand plateauing.
Man, it's a grand one, man. It really does speak of that national prosperity, that national rejuvenation kind of a thing. You know what I mean? Like, it really makes you go, hiya! Like, it's like, man, that ain't good, man. I'll tell you that. But still, that is what these countries bring to the United States. A lot of people don't know that either. A lot of the money that the United States gets in its economic growth comes from international trade. And a lot of people don't know this either. Like, a lot of people don't give America the bragging rights it deserves because folks in politics on both sides always want to make the situation sound like it's dire so you'll vote for them. But America is the second largest manufacturing power in the world behind China. We still produce a lot of goods that are used here in America, and we still export a lot of goods abroad as well. We make loads of money off of those trades. We don't just make money off of those trades. We make money off of our trades of services, like the fast food restaurants that we export abroad. You can literally find a KFC really anywhere in the world, along with a McDonald's. All that kind of stuff makes America money. And not only makes those countries money, it makes us money. And that's why it's good to be out there in the world like we are, because we end up getting pretty much the benefits of the entire world, and they get benefits of being a part of a successful sphere. It's a win-win for everyone. And so with that, I hope that does address that incredibly well, at least the best I can. But a big thanks to you so much once again for the support, KW Janky, and I hope that that was a really good answer to that question. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here is going to go to Andrew Weichart, who puts in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, Andrew, for that support as well, and we appreciate it, and thank you for supporting our work. And he said, is there any way that Ukraine can intercept new arms arriving from North Korea?
Sadly, no. There really isn't a way. The only way that we could, well, the only way that the Ukrainians could, is by sending a midget sub all the way around the world into the area near the Russian-Korean border and pretty much just torpedoing any ships that are traveling in between the two. That's really the only way. Or you could try and blow up the railway bridge that crosses from Russia into North Korea, but we don't really think they're using that at this point right now, so that's kind of off the considerations list at the moment. That really wouldn't be an option. So they would just have to sink ships that are transiting the equipment from North Korea to Russia, and that would pretty much be impossible in Ukraine's situation. So there really isn't a lot that they can do. But with that, I do thank you so much.
But if you try real hardly, you can intercept their coffee made of snow.
Man, wait, hang on, man. And of course, they have no birds except for these, and these will be eaten on Tuesday. It's like, all right, thank you, man. Like, thank you for letting us know that up on Mount Pictou, that's the only water in the country, and they cannot drink it because it's all Fat Man Kim Jong-un's, or something like that. Oh,
and
man.
also, if you look really closely on the side of the mountain, you can see little Fido, the yellow spitz, who will be eaten on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Amen. Like they eaten. But nevertheless, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least from what I would know. But still, a huge thanks to you so much once again, Andrew Weichart, for supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running. Because if it was not for folks like you, we would not be able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. And so a massive thanks to you so much once again, and a massive thanks to everyone who's been supporting the channel tonight, because y'all help this thing to keep ad-free and sponsor-free, where we can keep this news running for each and every single one of y'all every single day of the week, except for Monday. Or really, we work on this thing 7 days a week. Even when we're off on Monday, we're working, but still, y'all help us to make this entire thing possible with y'all's support, and we are greatly appreciative of that. And so a huge thanks to you once again. And also, I saw Jeff Cool say something about North Koreans are getting into something, and y'all wouldn't believe it. That's actually true. Like, did you hear that, Matthew?
I did hear that, but I was like, where'd they get the phones from?
The Russians are issuing them phones.
That seems like a terrible idea. It also seems like something North Korea would probably object to, because that's the whole reason they have control over their people. And then, one thing, I will take that back. I'll take that back for just a second, because like I've said before, the North Korean government knows they're sending those guys in with no chance of survival whatsoever. So they're like, well, go ahead and give them the phone after all, because they're not coming back. They're not going to be able to contaminate the rest of society in North Korea by coming back with this foreign knowledge. Also, this very nasty knowledge that is apparently based on what they're looking at on the phone. They're not coming back anyway, so go ahead and let them take a look at it. That'll be the last look they get on the phone anyway, so that could be their line of reasoning.
Yeah, that may be it. And it's really interesting to hear that they've been given literally an unlimited access to the outside world. Because it's like, that's really going to start messing with their worldview, you know, because it's going to be showing them that everything that they've heard is a lie. You know, like it's like they have to know that these guys aren't coming back alive, because if they came back alive in that kind of number, just like 15,000 of them. Imagine the damage that's going to be caused in North Korea because of 15,000 people telling them, yo, the outside world is a complete different thing than what they've told us. Like everything that they're telling us is a lie. Like, you know, like you can literally pull up just this absolutely obscene stuff on the internet and it's just there. You know, like it's like that's not going to go
Yo, they
well.
have naked pictures on the internet, bro. Have you seen this? That's what they're going back saying, man. It's like they said, blasphemy.
Dude, like they're bro, the North Koreans are like, huh, what's on the internet? Bro, women with no clothes. Like, they're like, oh my God. Like, dude, you know, like that's gotta be something, man. Like that's gotta be an issue, not gonna lie. They might want to actually start working on fixing that one. Because that's not a great thing for combat efficiency, just putting that out there. But still, with that, oh my God, dude, JSM brought it out. Dude, the North Koreans are going to be exposed to the Kardashians, dude. Their brains are going to leak out the side of their ears, man. They're not coming home. Like they're not coming home, man.
Man, that's actually anti-Western propaganda. The Kardashians. That's going to make the North Koreans want to go back to North Korea.
dude, you know some North Korean man, it just found out about YouTube, and he's like, what am I in? The Ukraine war? And he pulled it up, and he might be on the stream. Like, he might actually be on the stream. Wouldn't that be weird if that was, like, true? Like, there was just a random North Korean that just got a phone and somehow made it onto the stream? That would be bizarre.
That would be weird. Maybe that's one of the bots we've seen pop up in here. They're like, damn, there's those guys we've been told about. As I was jumping in the chat finally. And they better be subscribed, though. I better turn on subscribers only mode, so they have to at least give us a sub.
Yeah, we have to have one North Korean subscriber. We have to have a single one to say that we have one, because I think we'll be like one of the first people on YouTube to have a North Korean subscriber. But still, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least with the whole North Korean thing. But with that, a huge thanks to you so much once again, Andrew. I hope that did address your question well, and also went down a really interesting kind of rabbit hole right there. And with that, we are on to the last question of the segment, and then we're going to be moving on into the rest of the news that we have inside of the Middle East and also inside of Ukraine. So, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so this one is going to go to none other than Barry Woodward, who's a longtime channel legend as well, and thank you very much, Barry, also for the generous support, and we appreciate it. And Barry says, only God knows the ending for now, and where's the line in the sand for World War III? And Fireside Chat, let's assess what this means. Is it top secret until it happens, or can Americans act to deter? And I don't know, but I'm out 50.
And apparently you are, and I thank you for being out 50 and supporting the channel and helping it to keep on running. And to answer that question, that is an interesting one. For now, where is the line in the sand for World War III? Well, I would say it's not really happening yet, but if World War III was to happen, it probably would have to result in an attack on the United States that would force us into a war, as that's usually how it goes. That's how it's gone in the past two world wars. We were pretty much pushed into them by external circumstances. So with that in mind, that's probably what would be the line in the sand. And once we get involved, pretty much everyone's going with us. Like, everyone's going with us into the war. So that would pretty much be the line in the sand at this point, in my opinion. And, you know, once again, I have to put it out there. It's my opinion, you know, so take it with a grain of salt and all that. But that's generally what it would take. And also, I would have to add to that, that as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't really look like things are going to really happen that can be changed. The mechanisms that are in action in the world right now that would lead to a world war are things that are completely out of the control of individuals. And I'm all into people believing that they can have an impact and everything, but there are limits. Like, I cannot stand people like the hot dog man who acts like they're going to be the change. They like I get it. Like, I think it's great and all, like, on a certain level, when people are like, man, I don't really like how the medical industry is so short-staffed, so I'm going to become a doctor. Or, man, I don't really like how, you know, some cops act around people, so I'm going to become a cop to be a role model cop. Like, I like that, and that's the kind of change people can actually do. But I can't stand it when people are like, oh my God, I cannot stand the Russians. I'm going to be the change the world needs to see. I'm going to end Russia. It's like, now that's just delusional. It's like one person is not going to be destroying Russia. You know, that's going to take like the momentous, monumental, behemoth-like efforts of an entire nation and of an entire half of the world of people fighting against him and somehow pulling out a straight miracle of not getting nuked and then nuking them back. You know, it's like that's not the change you can be in the world. That's just getting a little too far out there. So as far as it goes, in my opinion, there isn't anything that a single American could do to be able to stop what's going on in the world, or the pretty much grinding mechanisms that would move us into a world war. That's something that has to be dealt with at the very highest levels of really the world. Pretty much our governments that are involved in this situation at the moment, that's really where they can change. But still, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And I thank you so much once again for support, Barry Woodward, and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it was not for folks like you who enjoyed this channel enough to support it and help it to keep on running, we would not be able to be here right now making this thing possible. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. And with that, it is now time for us to move on into the rest of the news. And boy, howdy, has time flown. It has flown so much and so fast. We are all the way at like an hour and 30 minutes into the show. So we are going to have to make sure to get this thing rolling on the ball a little bit quicker. So moving on into Lebanon, we were able to hear that the Israelis did conduct airstrikes on the city of Tyre today, hitting key HQs that Hezbollah is using to operate their ground forces in the south. And we've also been able to hear that Hamas is no longer welcome in Qatar, and they have to go anywhere but Qatar. So that is interesting news from the Middle East. Moving on up into Ukraine now, we have been able to hear some more interesting news, specifically from our location unknowns. We've had the return of a legend, folks. Tony was driving today, and it's time to see it. Tony, you back? Like, he's back.
Oh, yeah. Let's go, Tony. He's turning up that music. Oh, yeah. Ye to left. Oh, yeah. Oh. He said, "Are you alive, Bliot?"
Tony came back in full fashion right there, and this guy's on the ground, dude. He's going, it's like, bro, watch out, the North Koreans.
I like the music. Huh? The music on the radio is like, "Turn around." So did you hear the music playing on the speakers? Man, they were getting hyped to some like lo-fi sad music or something like that, and driving like an idiot.
Man, those are the songs where it's like, I hurt myself today, boom, 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 to see if I still feel. And they're like sitting there on the road going, It's like, bro, not the music to die to here. Like, give it a minute and then, croak. But also, by the way, if y'all are wondering what the Russians were doing back at home base, they were trying to deal with the rat infestation. And oh, buddy, y'all can already tell this is going to be a journey. No. My Lord. Matthew saw this one earlier today. I literally had to get him on a special call to show this one to him early. But holy moly, this is the best one of the day. So here we go.
Oh, my God, man. Oh, they're unloading mags into the rats running through a house. This is only in Russia.
Bro, they scream like women. Like, listen to them, bro. Listen.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
Man, these rats have some ops. He's unloading hollow points on that rat.
Oh, my God.
Stupid.
Oh my God. It's crazy, dude. It's crazy. They're this irresponsible. They're in a house in occupied territory, by the way. And so their reaction to dealing with rats is to literally pull out the Makarovs that they carry as their service pistols and just start blasting rats. Like, they're missing the thing, by the way. Like, that's why I'm showing the clip right here. They missed every single shot. They did not hit the rat once. So they unloaded their, 8-round clips in these Makarovs here. It didn't hit a single shot. So 16 rounds fired at this rat. Every single one of them missed. This thing's got better luck than an average Russian infantryman on the battlefield. But let's
They
watch.
sound like that old woman from Ratatouille when the rat was running through the kitchen and she's blasting with a shotgun. Yeah. And is screaming and firing at the rats. It's the same thing, but these are grown men right here. These are the hardened soldiers, and they're whipping out Makarovs and screaming at rats. Like, why are they even so worried with the rats? Like, why are they doing those?
I don't even know, man. Like, I guess, man, they moved into this house and they're like, all right, we found a nice place. And then they heard, rats, rats, where the rats? Huh? What's that, Bliat? Pull out the gat. Like, but bro, I can't get over the scream at the beginning. This dude screamed like a legit woman. He went, like, it's like, bro, you could not scream any worse in this video.
Jeez. I've always wondered what it'd be like to unload on a rat inside the house. Like, I'm not even going to bother with the rat trap. We're just going to unload the Makarov.
Bro. Bro, this is when Tekashi 6ix9ine enters his hood after he ratted on everyone. This is what happened. It's Tekashi 6ix9ine footage in real life colorized. But oh my god. Oh my
The guy was laughing too. It's like they're really getting a kick out of this.
Bro, I don't know. Maybe this is entertainment for them out there. Maybe they have nothing else to laugh at. But still, let us hear the scream and the shots one more time. Just one more time and we'll move on from it.
That was a big ass rat too. Like, that thing was fat.
Dude, that thing was gorged, dude. That thing might be Kim Jong Rat, like, down there, man, on the floor. That thing is fat. Like, but goodness, man. The Russians are something else. They're legitimately crazy. And so with that, we're now moving on into our next clip where we got to see the Russian casualty report over the last 24 hours.
Oh my god, man. 6
Holy.
Bobcats in one day. Oh my goodness. Also, see over there from Miss D said that apparently the personnel losses today are the 6th highest daily troop loss. And it looks like it's a damn big one. Almost 1,600 troops in a day. That must include those North Koreans. But Enforcer, tell us more.
And I gotta tell you that this is absolutely crazy. And of course, a big shout out to Miss Disa, keeper of the records, who was able to say that 1,580 Russian soldiers wounded and killed along with the North Koreans is the 6th highest daily loss of troops in the entirety of the war, and 118 drones lost also equals the 2nd highest day of drone losses over the course of the war. So we have been able to see near records being made today in some categories, but nevertheless, we have also been able to hear that 1,580 Russian soldiers have been wounded and killed along with the North Koreans in the past 24 hours, along with 49 APCs, 84 supply trucks, 9 main battle tanks, 32 artillery pieces, 118 drones, and 6 Bobcat skid steers. All in all, it was a pretty good day, and we were happy to see that the Ukrainians were once again inflicting significant losses onto the Russian Federation's armed forces involved in the fighting. Moving on from that and down to the Vovchansk area, we also got to see once again the Ukrainians destroying recon drones in wide areas of the front. And so here's the clip, and we're going to be muting the music, but we can see an Orlan 10 here at the beginning of the clip. And oh, they had a little message on it, but no one will be reading that message any longer. And here goes another one. And here comes another one. Bam. Oh, and they painted this one. More stealthy that way. And that's the end of that clip. But, oh, buddy, oh, howdy. The recons aren't doing that well today. But, hey, you know something that is doing well? The Azov unit, the Azov Brigade, which is currently up in the area of Vovchansk, and they are still holding the Russians at bay, and even pushing them back a little bit here and there. Oh, what the hell was that thing, dude? Was that a Mogwai? Wait, hang on. Hold up. That thing!
Man, it looks like some creature. I don't even know what that is, man. That's creepy.
I know what it is, man. It's that stupid cartoon character from Russia, man. It's like Shebareki or something like that. Like, I forgot what it's called, but I know it. Hang on. I can go find it, actually. Russian cartoon character. Chebarashka. Dude, I got that dead on the nail, man. Like, almost, like, 100%. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of this godforsaken abomination. But you can see it right there. Here it is right here. This thing is creepy as hell.
That thing is creepy, man. Like, that's their Soviet, like, children's cartoon characters. That's very creepy.
Dude, they sit there and ask this thing. They're like, are you involved with you know, Mickey Mouse Farfour in the Gaza Strip, and this thing's like, haven't you ever seen that? Inshallah, or something like that. It's like, bro, this thing's involved down there, man. It's getting involved. But nevertheless, moving on from that little shout out there to Sheberashka, we can see the Azov making a cool like Chad clip of themselves, Chad music included, and we can see that's just an amazing clip.
Oh, that knife trick right there, that was actually pretty good.
That was pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, look at him bebopping along.
Bro, that guy's calling in an order. Dang, kind of trippy right there.
Oh, these edits are sick right here.
Man. Anyways, that's the end of that clip. And moving on from that psychedelic outro, we did get to see some Ukrainians hiding from a drone successfully today in the 57th Brigade. Oh, we hear it explode right outside. Not close to them, though. And that's the end of that clip, but that's all we have from the area of Vovchansk today. Moving on from that and into our next clip, near to the area of Svatove, we also got to see the Ukrainians hitting a Vasilik automatic mortar right here, right now. There's the Vasilik, and there goes the Vasilik. Man, honestly, man, just for the laughs, I want to see that Luftwaffe unit operating their drones again with all that, like, imagery on the screen, man. Really brings you back to, like, to the 1940s, man. It's like, I don't know, that's a good look for them. But moving on from that, we did get to see an M113 conducting some evacuations near Torske today as well. We see the commander calling out the directions to the driver. The driver is actually in that little cupola off to the left right there. And we can now see the driver getting down inside of the APC as they pulled the M113 up to where it needs to be at the trench. And they're now going to start conducting the medical evacuations as the music lightly plays in the background. When you see
looks like it's already getting a little bit muddy out there because of the snow, maybe. Or is that my imagination?
Oh, no, it's Rasputitsa season for sure.
Yeah, it gets real nasty out there during that season.
Man, I'm going to be honest, man. I've said that word so many times throughout the war, I'm honestly tired of saying it. I just want to say the monsoon or something. Pizza. Man, raspberry pizza, блядь. It's raspberry pizza season. Also, by the way, speaking of Christmas, folks, I saw some people bringing it up in the chat. Matthew, have you heard that YouTuber guy called Jay Schlatt made a Christmas song and put it out? I listened to it. It was not that bad, actually. It was actually pretty good.
I've never heard of that fellow. His name is Jay what?
Jay Schlatt.
Schlatt. No, I've never heard of him.
Well, he made a pretty good Christmas song, man. I'm not going to lie. I somehow heard about it today. I forgot how, but I went and pulled it up. And I listened to it, and I was like, this is actually a banger. Like, it was Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and it was, like, classic with, like, a big band orchestra and everything. I was like, dude, this is legit. I was like, this is really good. I was like, this guy's got class here. I was like, I respect that. And also, he recorded it in Hollywood, Matthew, which you and me know much about. But moving it on from that and into the area of Troitske, we did get to see the Russians getting slammed in this area as well. Actually, are they getting slammed?
He's going way too fast. Oh my God, look at that.
Oh, he just ate it.
Oh, damn.
Oh, and the other guy's going to eat it. Oh.
Oh, man. Oh, gonna get some mud burn. Oh, that one guy went right into the other motorcycle, like smashed it. What is that, like Christmas colors on that bike?
I don't know. Man, I was like, that's interesting. They had it festive wrapped.
Man, he hit that rock so hard it deformed the wheel.
Really? Wait, hang on. I didn't see
look at
that.
that front wheel.
Dude, oh my lord.
It jacked the rim up.
Bro. Oh my lord, dude. We gotta watch this again. Bam. Oh my lord, dude. Wait a minute, his wasn't even the one with the jacked up wheel.
Oh, it was the other guy.
Bam.
He slammed the rock, bam, right there, man. He put a dent in the rim and probably a dent in his head, too.
Dang. And that's the end of that clip, but goodness, that was one hell of a wreck right there, actually, when you look at it again. We also got to see in the area of Pokrovsk today an Mi-24 on a combat mission, firing off its rockets as usual. And in a second, it's about to tilt up. But you see, he has the wiper on because it's a little bit of a rainy day out there. And any second now. Any second now. Oh, there we go. And there goes the rockets, and then he tilts down, pops off the chaff and flares, and he's out of there. Moving on from that little clip, and on behind the lines, we actually got to see that a Russian training base in the Rostov Oblast was hit today. Check this one out.
Нихуя въебаловась.
Охуеть.
Просто, вон. Дырки нахуй. Шары какие-то, я хуй знаю. Хуя это железо так пробивает. Человека тут ебать как пиздалось. Заебись, людей не было просто. Охуеть. Волна въебала такая, готова до нашего лагеря вас достала, прикинь. Смотри, людей недавно увезли вот с этих палаток. Смотри, что творится. Нихуя у нас веселуха сегодня была, пизда ночью. Гасились нахуй по блиндажам, по хуежам. Смотри, вот палатки живут. Просто пиздец. Я хуй знал.
Looks like the base has been splattered a good bit.
Просто, что тут ебал, я хуй знаю. Пиздец. Что, блядь, нахуй до сих пор горит, да? Блядь, что за говно? Ну, честно, вот какая хуйня. Остальные палатки тоже пострадали. Бля, благо увезли людей, потому что срочно
It just keeps on walking through the destroyed, like, shelters.
Пизда.
Man, this could be any random bridge in downtown LA.
Сразу минусы были до нас.
What?
Вот видишь, эти
No.
палатки тоже поразило. Как он поразносило тоже.
Ew.
Oh, the snort.
Bro,
Jeez.
dude's about to hock a loogie at you.
Блядь, вот, видишь, эти внутря
Bleh.
тоже позацепило.
This guy's repulsive.
Ебанулся, нахуй. Хуй его знает, что будет. Ну, эти более-менее вроде. Короче, вот такая вот хуйня тут происходит у нас. Вроде в России все спокойно. Хуй там плавал.
And that's the end of the clip, but we can see that little training base will not be training that many people anymore. But still, we do have to talk about them Koreans, because those North Koreans are not playing Squid Game. They are playing real-life Quid Game, and they aren't winning the Quid. But nevertheless, a large unit of North Korean troops did suffer total defeat in Kursk yesterday. And are they a benefit to Russia? Seems as though many people are in the camp that they're not. But Matthew, what are you thinking about it, and what is everyone else thinking about it? Are they meat for the Russians? Do they come from the dog meat and then return to the dog meat, or what is it? What is the scoop here, Matthew?
So, are the North Koreans a benefit to Russia? And about 62% of the audience said yes, they are simply meat for Russia's meat grinder strategy, while 18% said no, North Korea has proven completely worthless to Russia's war effort, and 15% said a very minor benefit to Russia. And once again, I don't think the North Korean troops were ever meant to be like a really strong strategic fighting force. Putin already knew that they really don't have any experience, nor do they have the equipment, nor do they have the ability to go into the battlefield and really change the situation in Russia's favor. But the one thing that they can do, and pretty much any force can do this, even if you're poorly trained or not, is you can be sacrifices or meat for the Russian military to hold off the Ukrainians and wear them down a little bit more. That's pretty much the only benefit the North Koreans are serving to the Russian Federation, and they're really not serving any other purpose. So they're going in there and being slaughtered in the masses, and today we saw that, and also yesterday we saw that as well. Ukraine is totally defeating them in the Kursk region, so they're proving not valuable whatsoever in a strategic sense, but in a meat grinder sense, they're very valuable. So I'm with the 62%, but Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to be with that 62% as well. They are providing the meat to the Russians. And I was actually telling Matthew this ancient North Korean prophecy today. The North Koreans come from the dog meat, they eat the dogs, and then they become the feed for the dogs. It is a circular cycle that the North Koreans fulfill, and I think that the Russians also believe in the circular cycle that these North Korean soldiers will be fulfilling out there on the front lines. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little question and on down towards Uruzhane, where we got to see that a Russian position was attacked today by the 128th Mountain Assault Brigade. Check this out. Look at them go with their methodical work down the trench, clearing the way, making sure to look for any Russians that may be in the area. Tossing a nade in one of these dugouts. Continuing on, clearing out another dugout that the Russians are in at the moment. Oh!
Oh.
Holy moly! And another nade.
Just seconds said, I heard that the training base trained firefighters. They certainly need the training. That's for sure.
That's for damn sure. Honestly.
Nick Nelson said, "What the heck was that flew up in the air?" I don't know. I don't know.
It's like a manhole or a smoke ring or something. I wasn't really sure what it was, but it was round. That's one thing I can guarantee you with that. And we see them just still moving on down as the clip kind of continues, showing us that they're just clearing out position after position. It looks like they hit an ammo cache right there, which is actually starting to burn very prolifically and emitting a very white smoke, usually indicative of ammo. And that's the end of that clip. But still, the Ukrainians press on, even in the southern regions around Zaporizhia. And with that, it is now time for us to move on up to Kyiv to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy here on day 898 of the war. And so, without further ado, here is the speech.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці і українки. Сьогодні вже увесь день зустрічі, наради в Києві після саміту Європейської політичної спільноти в Будапешті. Українська позиція була представлена. Взагалі, напрацювання європейської політики на наступний період має бути спільним, скоординованим і таким, що прямо допомагає нашому партнерству в Європі, в Євроатлантиці. Так само, як без сильної Америки глобальні справи занепадають, так і без сильної Європи збереження стабільності для європейських народів просто неможливо. І наступний тиждень має також принести відповідні результати. Результати в нашій роботі з партнерами. Говорив сьогодні з президентом Фінляндії про нашу співпрацю і двосторонню, і з ширшим колом партнерів. Я вдячний Фінляндії за всю оборону та політичну підтримку, яку ми отримуємо. Вже 26 пакетів військової підтримки. Дякую. Обговорили також перспективи найближчих місяців, а також контакти Фінляндії з іншими державами, з іншими лідерами, які принципово важливі для реального миру, для України і всієї Європи. Робимо все, щоб змусити Росію до нормальних, змістовних перемовин на основі міжнародного права, а не терор. Була сьогодні доповідь головкома, фронт, Курахівський напрямок, Покровський напрямок найскладніші зараз. Військове командування бригад працюють над посиленням позицій, продовжив нашу державну традицію шани до героїв України, воїнів, які проявили надзвичайну хоробрість і заслуговують на надзвичайну вдячність. Ще 30 квартир для наших українських героїв. Воїни і родини воїнів сухопутних військ, повітряних сил, ВМС, десантно-штурмових військ, сил спеціальних операцій, ТРО, Національна гвардія України, а також працівника ДСНС України в Харківській області. На жаль, загиблого героя України. І це завжди буде в Україні основою політики героїв. Наша не тільки пам'ять про тих, хто врятував Україну своєю сміливістю, але й наша здатність показати державну шану конкретними діями, конкретними рішеннями, конкретним піклуванням про українських героїв. І ще одне. Було спеціальне моє доручення уряду для всієї української школи, для всіх українських вчителів, те, що підтримує в наступному році фіксована доплата для всіх педагогічних працівників шкіл від січня, 1000 гривень кожному. Від вересня буде збільшення і буде 2000 гривень. І сьогодні Кабінет міністрів ухвалив це рішення. Ми всі розуміємо, що ресурси нашої держави обмежені, але уряд мусить допомогти людям, які працюють в Україні та, безумовно, для України. Кошти на це є. Урядовці готують зараз також інші рішення, зокрема для зимового пакету підтримки українців, які будуть представлені цього місяця. Я вдячний усім, хто з Україною. Слава Україні!
And
Heroes Slava.
And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy here on day 989 of the news of the war in Ukraine and around the world. And that's going to be moving us on into the second segment of this stream, where we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all. But before we get into that segment, I do have to thank the 9.9 thousand people who have been here tonight at the peak and about the 75,000 people who have watched this stream so far. We are always honored and highly grateful to know that so many people continue to choose this channel to be your primary source of news day in and day out. It always means a lot to us. We put a load of effort behind the scenes into making this thing a reality every single day. And if it wasn't for folks like y'all, we would never have been able to make this thing possible, and we would have never had the inspiration to do so in the first place and to keep it going like we have been for nearly 3 years. But of course, we still have a lot to go and loads of things to talk to all of y'all and talk with y'all about. And Matthew, tell us, what is the first thing that we're going to be talking about in this segment?
All right, so the first thing we're going to be talking about in our final question segment of the night is actually not a poll question, because even though we love the polls very dearly, that is all the polls that is, we are fresh out. So we have no polls left to address, so we're moving right on to our Super Chat segment, the last one of the night, and our first one is going to go to Made in Canada 182, who throws in a very generous $25 donation, and thank you very much, Made in Canada, for the support. And they said, if Putin refuses the new president's peace deal, would it tick him off enough to spoon-feed Ukraine whatever they need, and long live the LSA.
And long live the LSA, and that's a very good question, Made in Canada 182, and that kind of weighs in a little bit on some of the hypothetical scenarios that we're considering in the future, and that is one of them. And this is how we've been looking at it, and this is how we think it's going to go. The current president-elect is a very interesting person. Everyone's always an interesting person who takes their office. I mean, what am I kidding? But beyond that, the president-elect is a very interesting person, and he has said, at least publicly, although it doesn't seem that Zelensky's really concerned about this at all, like many of y'all were noting in the speech, y'all are like, wow, he doesn't seem stressed at all, probably because there isn't really that big of a reason to be, much like I've been trying to say to many. But nevertheless, what will probably happen is that the president-elect will go, Putin, we gotta have a good peace deal. We gotta have a great peace deal. Give back Ukraine at least this. And the Russians are going to go, kiss my ass, and that's going to piss them off enough to just start support to Ukraine and keep it going. That probably will be the case. Like, that's what we're thinking it will be, because Putin is not going to relent off of this. And we've been hearing some things, and they've been some fairly interesting things. And I want to tell y'all a little bit of like one of the rumors that I've heard, and I'm like, this just will not work, is that they want to make a peace, but they want Ukraine to join NATO at the end of it, which is unacceptable. Like, that's one, like, very in a nutshell kind of a thing. That's one of the possible rumors of a peace that could be coming around, is that Ukraine gives up the southern territories, but joins NATO, and NATO creates a heavily militarized DMZ. with the Russian Federation. That is an absolute no. That's literally the entire reason why the Russians are fighting the war right now, is that they don't want NATO forces right on Russia's border. And if that happened, NATO forces in very large numbers would be right on Russia's border. So that is an absolute no from the Russians. They would tell the upcoming president, the president-elect, to get stuffed. And then he would start probably stuffing the Ukrainians with weapons, because that would piss him off enough to do such a thing. That's what we're thinking right now. At least, hopefully that's how it would turn out, because that probably would be, to be entirely honest, even better than what it is doing right now, because I would bet you that we would see a lot of the restrictions that have kind of been on Ukraine will pretty much be completely lifted entirely, and the Ukrainians will really be allowed to do whatever and whenever they want in regards to fighting this war. That probably would end up being the case. So hopefully that would be it. We don't really know. And we would never entirely know until it actually comes around the corner. That's the thing with stuff like this, is that crystal balling is really tough. And in that kind of a situation, it's kind of crystal balling. Well, it is crystal balling, and we really don't like to do that a lot, because the future is very unpredictable and we really have no idea how it could go. But still, I hope that does address it the best I can. And I thank you so much once again for support, Made in Canada 182, and supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And so, huge thanks to you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one is going to go to Life Tourist, who puts in a $20 donation, and huge shout out to you, Life Tourist, for that support. We appreciate that. And also, let me check real quick here, and let me see here. Was that your first ever super chat? Because I think it might have been. Let's see here. Also, while my headphones keep disconnecting and reconnecting, very weird with that. That is not Life Tourist's first super chat, by the way. This is probably one of the second or third, unless YouTube is glitching. So once again, and thank you very much for the support. And it said, I absolutely love the LSA, and my request is, please read the translations, because usually I watch your program while driving my semi-truck, and I can't read them.
And I thank you so much for the support, Live Tourists, and I thank you for asking that. And the reason why we stopped reading that the reason why I stopped reading the subtitles a while ago is because so many people complain about things. I don't mean to bring this up, but it's something that always annoys me a little bit. Someone always has a complaint about something, so you always try and curtail it, whatever they're complaining about, so that way they stop running their mouths and whining about stuff. But that was one of the things, is that I would read off everything, or I'd explain everything that's happening on film, and so then people would be going, "Oh my god, why do you have to do that? Like, I'm blind," and it's like, I guess they just don't have like the depth perception to understand people are watching the show, like you, who cannot see the screen because you're driving a truck, or you may be doing something else, like anything else where you cannot be looking at the screen, and so people don't get that. The truth is, I'll be honest, I think nowadays I'm starting to accept a little bit too much criticism, because there's a thing where accepting no criticism isn't great, but then listening to way too much criticism really starts to limit what you can do and say. And that's also why y'all may notice that sometimes I'm stuttering a lot before I say something, is because I'm trying to go through in my head at that point about the 20 different options that I have of saying something that will not piss people off, because everyone's always pissed off no matter what you say. Like, you can say the most down the line thing, like I just think it was a great day today, and someone's going to be pissed off that it was a great day today. You know what I mean? So we're going to have to start kind of ramping down on that a little bit, because like we always used to say back in the day, and I'm going to have to get a lot more adamant on this channel is what it is, and it will be what it is. And if people don't like it, they can go somewhere else, because that's how we used to run it, and we would just pretty much ban anyone who had a suggestion, and we told them it's our show, and then they go, well, I don't like it, and then we ban them. And I think that's what we're going to have to start getting back to these days, because I'm kind of getting a little bit annoyed with myself even on having to sit there and think, what is the most political way I can say something without getting everyone, well, not everyone, but a small group of people pissed off, and having them run their mouths for like 20 minutes in the chat and trying to coddle them and baby them because they are angry, So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. I thank you so much for the support, though, and asking that, because I am going to start doing that, because it honestly made sure to keep me awake as well during the clips, and keep me engaged in them instead of just staring at them, because when you stare at them, you really don't get to commentate a lot or really observe some things that you wouldn't otherwise if you weren't narrating it. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least the best I can. And I thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we would not be able to make this thing possible and keep it running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And damn. I was reading something from the live chat and I just got totally messed up there. I did not mean to stutter like that. But moving on here to our next super chat. This one goes to Anthony Wilson, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Anthony, for the $20 support. We appreciate it. He said, just chilling with my marmot, eating a dog meat sandwich. Oh, damn. Oh, man, it's delicious. And the Enforcer Matt, you two are truly amazing. And you make my days brighter in LSA. And thank you very much, Anthony. I'm glad to hear that we make your day brighter, by the way. Also, we appreciate the kind words, and I'm glad we're doing a good job over here, and I appreciate that. But, Enforcer, what say you?
And I thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, Anthony Wilson. And I thank you so much for the kind words. It means a lot to us, and we love to know that folks really do enjoy this channel and just love it to bits, because we put a lot of effort into it. I say that a lot, but we do put a lot of effort into it, and we're always greatly appreciative and very thankful that folks are always enjoying this channel and always wanting to see it on air, just like you are right now, Anthony, because your support helps us to make this thing possible. And we say this a lot, probably to the point that it doesn't really sound like much of anything, but the words, y'all keep the channel running and make this thing possible, weighs a lot. It means a lot, because the statement is true. Y'all are the only thing that has made this channel financially possible for 3 years now. We don't run ads, we don't have sponsors. Also, if y'all want to see that as like proof, here you go. Let me show y'all. Y'all will see that literally every single stream for like the past few weeks has been copyrighted. That's because of a specific song in our intro, but I'm like religious on playing it because I like it and I think it's good. So, you know, there are copyrights, but beyond that, the monetizations are off, and ads shouldn't be playing on them because we have the monetization off. So if they are, I hate to say there's nothing you can really do about that, but they shouldn't be playing. But beyond that, we run ad-free sponsor streams, sponsor-free streams every single day that we run these things. And if it wasn't for folks like y'all who enjoyed this channel enough, like you, Anthony, who supported it and found it worthwhile to help us to keep this thing rolling, we would not be able to make this thing possible. Y'all make it a reality for us to do this as a full-time job. We wouldn't be able to make this channel possible if it wasn't for us making it a full-time job, and y'all support is the stuff that helps us to be able to pay our bills, keep the lights on, and keep the channel running. And I gotta always thank you so much for being one of the folks who enjoys this channel enough, Anthony, that you would want to support it and help it to keep on running, because once again, like I've been saying and said the entire time, it wouldn't be possible without folks like you. You make up such a small number of the channel, too. 76,000 people have watched this stream at this point. And out of those 76,000 people, I think only 20 or so of them have supported the channel. And that doesn't mean that there should be more people supporting the channel. That just means that the 20 of y'all who are supporting this thing are the entire reason that it's possible for about 76,000 people right now. And so, huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for those incredibly kind words. And Matthew, what do we have next?
All right, so real quick, huge shout out to Glock, who's there, LSA. He said, Enforcers, I got my Make Russia Small Again shirt today. It's sweet. And good job, guys. And also, glad to hear you got yours as well. And thank you very much, Glock, for getting an LSA MRSA shirt, MRSA, which is a very unfortunate infection. But also, making Russia small again, and that's a good thing, though. But I must say, thank you very much once again. And I just want to shout that out real quick because I saw it in the live chat. But moving on here to our next super chat question. This one is going to go to Adam McLean, who's a channel legend as well, and puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, good sir, for that support. He said, can you give us an update on when do you think Russia will go bankrupt, and how many more months?
I'm not really sure. When they would go bankrupt, we assumed way back at the beginning of the war it would be about a year in, and now we're like 3 years in, so I'm not really sure, but they are in tough financial straits, and whenever they do financially collapse, the war is ending right then and there, because there's no way for them to finance the war beyond that point. So, in my opinion, that will probably be within the next 2 to 3 years. Like, not to say the war will last another 2 to 3 years, but they certainly will collapse in the next 2 to 3 years at the longest, or earlier than that. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for support, Adam McLean, and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it was not for folks like you, we would not be able to make this thing a reality, and we wouldn't be able to keep this thing running. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Pterosaur, who puts in a $20 donation. And it's Pterosaur. I don't know why I pronounced the P at the front. It's Pterosaur.
Welcome
Thank you very
back.
much, Pterosaur, for that $20 support. And of course, if you did not know, Pterosaur actually designed the LSA flag artwork. So this is the creator of the artwork right here, putting in that $20 donation. And thank you very much, Pterosaur, once again. And they said to feed a train rabbit hole. Oh, damn.
Yes, yes.
You just see today that ownership of CNO J3 Greenbrier 614 has been transferred to a group that has secured funding to restore it to operation by 2027. Strasbourg Railroad will do the full restoration.
Yeah, yeah. Hang on, we got it here. Yeah, this one. I think it's this one actually. Torsaur. I thank you so much for being a legend. I think it's this one though, and let me make sure it is. 614. Yeah, that's it right there. 614 in this picture. So that is the one. I did not know that they actually are going to be restoring this thing. I had heard about one of the Mohawks or from the New York Central system were going to be restored, I think by the Strasbourg Railroad Association, the one that keeps up Nickel Plate Road 765. I think it's the same one. But beyond that, that is incredibly cool to hear that they're going to be restoring this thing and getting it back into running service because these things are just amazing. It's such an important part of American history. Locomotives are. It's what built this country. Not a lot of people really remember that, and not a lot of people remember that. Back in the day, America used to be a proper country. Like I'm gonna say it. This might be controversial, but I think the railroads is what made America a proper country. In the modern day, with car infrastructure, you get urban sprawl, you get endless traffic, and you get cities like Dallas. Now, nothing's wrong with Dallas. Like, Dallas is a great city, but it spans on forever, like in every direction. Like, let's go from the epicenter of Dallas right here to the farthest outskirt to the north. So let's go all the way up here above Prosper to about right here. That is an entire 36 miles of city. Like, that's insane. And it's really because of the population density. It's very sparse. And that's because of cars. Like, car infrastructure leads to cities sprawling out farther than they really need to. Like, in my opinion, they become insanely big. Trains used to keep the cities fairly compact because the train station was in the center of town and people didn't really want to walk. And also, no one really owned a car, so you get a taxi and then take it the rest of the way, or you just walk. So the actual area of Dallas was about, I think, this big, like around this surrounding area, about that big, until the 1930s or so, and then it spanned out into this massive, sprawling metropolis. They still actually have trains in Dallas. They have the DART, and they also have the Trinity Rail Express, which goes to Fort Worth. But at the same time, though, it's like, that's really more so an extension of trying to give public transport to a city with urban sprawl. I just gotta say, I liked it back in the day when the cities were compact. Like, you could actually get over across the city in a short amount of time. Birmingham is another city that has urban sprawl. Not really as much as Dallas because it's, of course, not as big. But there are 1.5 million people living in the Birmingham metropolitan area, so it's one of the larger metropolises in the country. I think it's in the top 50. And the urban sprawl is insane. Like, there are there's like 4 roads, interstates really, that you do not want to get on at certain times of the day in Birmingham. Interstate 20, Interstate 65, Interstate 459, and also Interstate 59, and also Highway 280, which can never be stated enough. Highway 280 is hell. Like, that is literally a living hell on earth right there is Highway 280, because no one knows how to drive that's on Highway 280. But beyond
And that interstate coming out of downtown Birmingham, I think that's like 65 south or something like that. I drove on that one today. It's like a dang free-for-all out there. Like, that place is reckless. Like, there's at least, like, every single time you drive down it or up it, there's at least 5 people at least that are either driving 120, swerving in and out of traffic, like about to hit and smash somebody or something. Like, it was just crazy.
Yeah, I just gotta say, like, I like cars. Like, I don't like cars as much as the next guy, I'll be honest. Like, cars really aren't that big of a thing. Like, I have one, but it's not something where I'm like, I just love cars and I have to have cars. It's like, it's not really a big thing to me. I would give up my car to see cities get smaller and also to see better public transportation. I would give up my car for that. Like, I'm not saying that everyone else has to give up their car for that. I would personally give up mine. Maybe a lot of like-minded people like me would do that to get some good, proper transportation. And not only that, make the city smaller because it freaking drives me crazy how long you have to drive. Like just to tell y'all, like to drive from say like Pelham here or around the Lake Purdy area into Birmingham, it takes 50 minutes. Like it takes an hour. Like when we used to drive to UAB, which is in downtown Birmingham, that is an hour commute back and forth, and you don't even leave the city the entire time. It's worse in places like LA and stuff. It's literally like that anywhere at this point in America because so many people have cars. So many of them take the same roads. And the freaking gridlock is insane. Like I just hate that stuff. Trains
I'll
just
tell you one thing. I'll tell you one thing, though. I did notice out in Dallas that short little time I was there last time. It helps a ton whenever the drivers are better. Like the drivers out in Texas were actually a lot better than they are in Alabama because I think a huge part of the reason why, like for example, Highway 280, which is like the main highway going from downtown Birmingham to the suburbs here in Birmingham, that is a really bad choke point, mainly because the drivers really don't know what they're doing. There would be people like driving super slow in the fast lane all the time, and they're taking up all three lanes and they're congesting everything. And also just wrecks happening constantly because like people were just like road raging and stuff. Out there in Dallas, everybody was like pretty civil when it came to the driving, using blinkers, being courteous, and things like that. I didn't see anything too crazy, but Alabama driving is kind of tough across the whole state.
And also, I saw someone ask, this is a great question. And let me see. Kush asked, when you say smaller, do you mean more compact, like same number of people, smaller area? Yes, that's what I mean. Like, I mean smaller, not as in like, you cull like the population. That's crazy. But population density, that's what I believe in. I think that cities should be more compact and people should be living in a denser kind of a city. Now, a lot of people are going to be saying, well, wait a minute, Forster, do you want me to live near those crazy homeless people that like have like shivs down to the local park and are going to stab you if you go outside? Like, no. Like, obviously those things would have to be dealt with to get the population densities back under control. But with increased density comes much easier management. City resources aren't being expended to maintain mass swaths of the city that are just way too big, and there's just not enough funds for it for the amount of income that they're getting back from their tax base. Not only that, there's a better sense of community. Sorry to the introverts out there. Like, I hate that for y'all, but there would be a better sense of community. People would actually be able to mingle with each other a lot more easily. It would make America more sociable again, at least in my opinion, because you would have to deal with people. It's a more dense kind of a living, like it used to be in America. I just think it would be better.
Just understand, just because people are around each other doesn't mean everybody's going to be sociable. Like, yeah, if you like see how it is now, like some places you go, like I did notice this a little bit out in Dallas. Some place you go that's public, sometimes you'd go out someplace and there'd be like a ton of people around, but nobody was speaking to literally anybody. Everybody's just in their own little world. And that's the same way kind of here in Birmingham as well. A little bit lesser, actually. I think Alabama's a little bit more social because obviously Dallas is a huge metropolitan area, so nobody really knows anybody there unless you just happen to run across a friend, which is probably unlikely in a place that large. But it's really not just because you get around more people like on public transit that people are going to start like chatting it up with one another. I think we've kind of like moved away from that as a society from what I can tell.
I don't know, man. I think it's still around. I just think that people don't really have the opportunity a lot to do that, or they generally try and avoid that because they come from the suburbs where you really don't have to deal with anyone, and you have a phone to shove in your face, kind of like a newspaper to be able to avoid contact with people. But still, for the folks who would want to, it makes things a lot easier. It makes maintenance a lot easier. It also makes it better to make, it makes it easier to make things look better. Because, like, think about it. With a city like Dallas, think of all of the paved roads that have to be maintained on the city's dime. If you cut the city down by about half of its size with the same amount of people living in it with a higher population density per square mile, road maintenance and city beautification efforts across the board for any city in America would be so much easier and cheaper to do because there's literally half of the roads that you have to maintain left because the population is much more dense. I just think it would be better.
I mean, yeah, maybe so. It could possibly be, maybe better. I guess only time will tell. But generally speaking, though, I don't like the urban sprawl either because it really isolates you, and it's never really like a good existence just to like go back and forth from work in your little bubble that's a car and have no interaction at hardly at all, and then go back to your house. If you're single, you just go back to your house and there's nobody there. It's like your only interactions at work unless you go out and get back in your car and go specifically to a place that's way outside your home. You have to drive for like 30 minutes to go get to a new place to go like mingle with people. That's not exactly good. I'd rather have a place that's like, you could walk to some places actually, instead of having to drive everywhere and have to get out in the car every single time.
Yeah, and also, like, things would get fairly manageable, I believe, pretty quickly. But I just think the railroads made this country a proper country. That's honestly why I like the railroads a lot, because it's a time that's gone. Like, the railroads made people sociable, whether they wanted to be or not. Matthew kind of got a little bit of an experience with that when we were riding on Amtrak, because Amtrak keeps up with the age-old tradition of the dining car reservation policy, pretty much being they sit you down with random people and you eat with them. So you have to, like, talk to them and stuff. It's like that seems like foreign to people in America nowadays, but back in the day when the railroads were really in their prime, that was the way everything was done. You just got sat with random people literally everywhere, in the hotels, in restaurants. If there was a spare chair, they sat you down with them, unless you said a specific request you didn't want to be sat down with anyone. And so the railroads made people sociable back then. They made the cities smaller and more dense because of how the transportation structure worked. I think it was great. I liked it. And the Chesapeake and Ohio Greenbrier number 614 is one of those reminders of those times. It was a great time. And I would have to say, I don't care if one drive is signed in or not. Why does he keep telling me that? But beyond that, I do have to say that I cannot wait for this thing to be restored. Also, if y'all have never seen, speaking of conservation efforts, the New York City Systems Mohawk, these were pretty cool. Here's a Mohawk right there. Let me see if I can get y'all a better picture of one. Yeah, nah, that's not a good picture. It's not big enough. Yeah, here we go. Here is a preserved Mohawk in 1970. There's not many of these around, actually, and I think that the Strasbourg Railway Association is going to be restoring one of these as well. I mean, they're on a streak right now. I love to hear it, because it's keeping these interesting pieces of American history alive, a part of the American fabric that made this country what it is today. Kind of like the industrial museums that also keep a different part of America's history alive, which is our age-old industries, which have been around for centuries at this point. But still, I hope that does address that fairly well, and I thank you so much once again for support, Torosaur, and adding into that rail fanning rabbit hole, because I absolutely love getting into the rail fanning rabbit hole. And speaking of which, I also want to give one big shout out to one game in particular that I've been playing a little bit recently, and I really like, and I bet y'all that if y'all haven't heard about it yet, y'all will like it too. It's a game called Railroader. I'm not sponsored by him or anything, I just want to tell y'all about it because I just really like the game a lot and would like to see him succeed. They've done pretty good.
Railroader sounds like politics.
Oh, get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. But beyond that, Railroader is a really cool game to just give y'all a little rundown on this thing. Railroader is a game based in the 1950s, around 1955, in the Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina. I can actually show y'all where it is. This is a real-life location. It's near the Nantahala National Forest here just west of Asheville. It starts, I believe, in Silva, right here, this town. You can actually see the Heritage Railway that still runs through in some areas here, because there is one that still exists. But the route starts in Silva, and you get to build out your railroad company from Whittier down to Silva, then over to Bryson, and then even further into the mountains, down to Alarka and places like that, until you expand it all the way down, I think all the way to Andrews down here, which is where the line ends in the game. It's a really cool thing. I just think it was an amazingly fun game, and I've been playing it a lot recently. It's just great. If you ever wanted to get into the railway management side of things and also run the trains, this is an amazing game. I could not recommend it enough. It's just great. It's wonderful. It's just beautiful too. It's still being developed. It's not perfectly polished and it's still in early development, but it's just so freaking cool. Every time I play the game, I'm like, man, this is a really cool game. The variety, the replayability, the fun of it's always there to me. I always love this game. It's just wonderful. So if you're one of those people who want to try out a new video game or play video games at all, I highly recommend this thing. It really gets you into the whole railroading side of things. And maybe some people find it interesting, some people find it really boring. It's not for everyone, but still it is pretty cool. And so I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for support, Torosaur, and helping this channel to keep on running, and also being the Betsy Ross of the LSA, designing our incredible LSA flag. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support.
Yes, indeed. And moving on here to our next one, we have a $10 super chat from none other than Oats Air, who's back yet again. It's a channel legend who's returned once again, and they put in that 10. And thank you very much, Oats Air, for that support. And also, it's good to see you once again. And they said, first time attending the stream after finishing my conscription service in Finland and moving back to Seattle. And go LSA.
Hey, and congratulations on finishing your service in the Finnish Armed Forces and returning back to the beautiful city of Seattle, Washington, which we actually can say is beautiful. We went there. It was actually really pretty. But beyond that, thank you so much for coming back to the channel, crazily enough, Oats here. I am happy to hear that you returned because it was a long time ago that you left. I remember that you used to be a common person in the live chat and in the super chats, and I got to thank you so much for returning to us as soon as possible tonight. I hope that you're still enjoying the channel, and I hope it's just like you left it, same as it used to be. And so with that, thank you so much once again, and a big welcome back to you. And also, by the way, if y'all ever have not been to Seattle, I highly recommend the visit. We didn't get to see much of it, but it was pretty cool looking. Like, let me see if I can show y'all some pictures. Here's one of the pictures. That's of the waterfront. Let me see here. You can see the public market center where the original Starbucks is. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Look at this street. This street doesn't even exist. This picture's like from the 60s or something. I like that, though. That actually looked pretty cool.
That does look pretty cool. I like that one.
I don't know, Jack. What's going on,
I really
Jack?
like it. I like this place. I think it's very nice. I like it.
I'm going to call it my home or something like that. But
I want to go ahead and apologize to that fella because apparently he's just come to power. So I just want to let you know that this is a friendly impersonation in honor, and it's not a mocking.
I'm so sorry. Please don't hurt me. But anyways,
I'm not a bear.
Like, we just do it for fun, guys. Like, please don't take it seriously. But moving on from that, it's beautiful out there in Seattle. It really is. Like, I'm absolutely blown away with what the city looks like. You return to a great place, in my opinion. We didn't get to see a lot of it, though. We didn't get to see all of it. But let us, Matthew, do a random street drop down right here. Yeah, this looks great, actually.
I like Seattle, really. I like it. It's just a little bit expensive. It's on the expensive side. I think the entire West Coast is kind of like that trend right there. But it was pretty nice. A little bit that we got to see at some point. It was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's great. I thought it was wonderful. And I would recommend anyone visit the city and take a look around. It's one of the interesting American cities that's well kept up and fairly clean from what we could tell. And I liked it. I'll have to be honest with y'all. I like that city. But beyond that, I got to say, congratulations to returning Oats here. And of course, being in the Finnish Armed Forces in the middle of them joining NATO must have been pretty interesting. And not only that, living in Seattle must be interesting in its own right as well. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. And once again, welcome back to you, Oats here. And it has been a year. That's crazy to think. You left us about a year ago, and now you're finally back. You have returned. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and real quick, I put up a poll because I wanted to know something for my own personal curiosity, really. And this poll right here says, if you could live in one of these cities free of charge, that's a big deal, free of charge. I mean, I love that. Which one would you pick? And 38% said Dallas, Texas. That's the winner. The second place is Santa Barbara, California. The third place is Seattle, Washington. And the last place, with only 16%, is New York City, New York. And honestly, this is actually not a bad lineup here. It's actually almost the exact order I would rank the cities. I would say Dallas number 1, Santa Barbara number 2, Seattle number 3, and last place, New York. I probably would not want to live in New York, to be perfectly honest with you, just because it's a little bit too congested. I think that's the best word for it, to be sort of kind with it. But I don't really think I would like it. I've never been there, though, so I might have to go one day to at least check it out. But Dallas would be number 1. Santa Barbara was beautiful, but that place is crazy expensive, like pretty much everywhere in California. And Seattle, I only got to see a little bit, and it looked nice. But Enforcer, what say you?
Oh, no way! They have Kawasaki M9s down here, Matthew. They have M9s down here. I can't believe that. That's crazy. I didn't know that the Long Island Railroad went to Grand Central. Whack. That's
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, me
also,
either.
Kush in the live chat said, visit Portland. I will say this. I got to see Portland on the train. I did not like Portland one bit. Portland did not look very clean. And also, I just didn't like the way Portland looked, just from even the train. Like, I didn't even want to get off the train in Portland. It's really not my place. Like, if you live there, I'm not dogging on it. If it's for you, it's for you. But I just didn't really care for it.
Portland Portland was something. I'm not gonna lie. Like, we can drop down in Portland really quickly. But I'll be honest with you, what we saw was not great. Like, it was actually pretty rough looking. Now people may like it, people may hate it. But Portland was bad. Like, because we rode in on the train, so like, to retrace the route through Oregon, we stopped at Klamath Falls. It traveled for about 2 to 3 straight hours through the Umpqua National Forest to Eugene. And then it went from Eugene to Salem, and then from Salem to Portland. And when it made it into Portland, we were so excited because we were like, is it going to live up to the hype? Because, like everyone says, like, this is the thing. Everyone says, oh, LA's a shithole, San Jose is a shithole, Sacramento's a shit. And we were like, is it really? And, largely with LA, it was like a mixed bag. It's like you could see how some people could say that depending on some places of the city, but some places were really nice too. So it's like, can't really crap on it all. And then some people crap on California as a whole. And then you see places like, Santa Barbara, in, let's see, San Luis Obispo, and other places, and it's like, that wasn't really that bad either. It was actually really nice. Really, the
Can we see
entirety.
Santa Barbara real quick, like a little street map view?
Yeah, sure. We'll drop down in Santa Barbara. Sure.
Let's get a center of town, by the way. I want to see the center of it.
Here's the center.
Oh yeah, I like this place. Like we got to see it from the train, and it was so nice. Like even the train station, everything was clean and really nice. I like the architecture too. That like Spanish roof and like the white buildings. It's really really now. There's a little bit of graffiti right there on the wall, but that's about the only graffiti I've seen there. The roads did not look like this from the train. Like they looked a little bit nicer than this, but I like the place. So I like it. It's I got some oceanfront too.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that bad. But beyond that, California was pretty nice. Like, I'm not going to lie. It was very expensive, but it was really nice. And so I could see where a lot of people were kind of lying about the hype, to be entirely honest. Like, a lot of people were really lying about how bad California was. It was actually pretty good. So I was like, hey, not bad. Nice on them for having a nice state. It's naturally beautiful, and a lot of the cities look pretty cool, too. But then when we moved up into Oregon, we were like, okay, this is different. It actually reminded us a lot of Alabama in places, like generally through like the areas of Klamath Falls all the way up like to south of Salem. And then once you got to Salem, Salem was like any other town, but Portland was very, very rough. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but I do know how, and I'll just be completely frank with you all. There was like 1 million homeless people in Portland. Like, it felt like 1 out of every 2 people was a homeless person. And they weren't the kind of homeless people who looked like they were down in their luck. They kind of just looked like they like reveled in it and seemed to be unwell. Like, that's the best way I could put it. And it just didn't seem like that safe of a place, in my opinion. I was like, I don't even want to step out of the train here. And so I stayed inside of the train while it was at the station, because I was like, it's just that bad. And we saw a lot of the city too, because the rails pretty much meander through the entirety of the city from south to north. Now, a lot of people will know that the city isn't really the nicest. Any city isn't the nicest near the railroad tracks. But beyond that, let me show y'all downtown Portland, at least near to the station. I don't know if it's going to look as bad as it did when we went through, and it really doesn't. Like, it actually doesn't look that bad at all through here. Let's see here. Well, you can see, like, further down, there's, like, some homeless camps down there, but it was bad when we went through. This is actually from June of 2024, so this isn't really that, like, far from when we went. It's not looking that bad here, but when we came in, it was overcast and gloomy. Actually, there's like a homeless hangout right there. Like, it was like on every freaking corner. We were blown away by that. Like, yeah, there's another one right there, and like it was crazy. Like, let me just tell y'all. There was a bridge that crossed the river, and it was somewhere. Yeah, it was right here. It was the steel bridge right here. So the Coast Starlight comes in, riding along the Willamette River, and then it takes a left over the steel bridge, and then it turns here and makes a right, and then enters Portland Union Station. And around this area, it was literally, the streets were covered in tents. It was like homeless fortresses almost on the street. Like, no one was on these streets. These people were just kind of like tweaking. Like, if y'all know what that is, they were just kind of like twitching and stuff in the streets. It was a very unsafe looking place. It looked really dangerous to me. And so that was the only city that I had heard anything really, really bad about, where I was like, it seems to me, and maybe we just got a bad first impression. Maybe if we went again, it wasn't that bad. But it seemed to me that everything that everyone was saying about Portland had to have been true. And also, Dr. Spoochman, I mean, says homeless people exist everywhere. And that's true. Yeah, homeless people do exist everywhere, but there's varying amounts. And sometimes the homeless can be overwhelming. Like there can just be way too many of them. And also there's like no control or law enforcement on them. So they, just pretty much have free reign to conduct anarchy in the streets almost, which is what some places, even in downtown Birmingham, feel like sometimes, because not even the cops want to go there. So it's almost like a lawless state of anarchy in some blocks of downtown Birmingham. But with Portland, on the train, just looking out the window, it was almost like this lawless state of anarchy permeated over the entire surroundings. And that was what made it seem really questionable. Not, I'm not saying like, oh, they had homeless people, so, it's like, don't go, because like, yeah, homeless people are everywhere. Homeless people are here in Alabama everywhere, but there's not that many of them, and they also don't seem to like almost be out of control. That's kind of like my take on it. So take that for what you will. But Seattle was really nice. Like Seattle also had homeless people, but Seattle was incredibly nice. Like they kept up the streets. They were very clean. There weren't just like homeless encampments like on every single street where you couldn't walk on the sidewalks and you might be accosted by someone for money or something like that. It was really clean and nice. I love Seattle. I thought it was a great place. But Portland.
I saw Big Sky. I saw Big Sky saying in the live chat. They said, I've visited all those places and also lived in Dallas for 10 years, and Seattle is by far the best place to live. Very interesting. And also, I asked him in the live chat, so why do you think that? Because I'm very curious to know for a personal reason. I haven't seen them answer yet, but I'd really like to know the answer to that question. Like, what is it about Seattle that's better than Dallas? Because, I've been looking at different places and stuff like that just out of curiosity, and I like Seattle. I didn't get to see very much of it. I liked for what I saw, but it just looks like it's a little bit more expensive than Dallas, which is a pretty big deal these days. But it looked pretty nice.
Yeah, it did look really nice. I would like to know why it's also nicer to live there too, because I'd be curious. But let's see here. Um, in Vegas, they have a ton of encampments underground. Yeah, they're called the mole people, but they just live in the sewers. But the thing is that when the rain comes, they all die. Like they don't get out of those tunnels quick enough, they just drown down there and die.
Damn.
So it's a really rough situation with the homeless in Las Vegas, and no one really wants to go into the tunnels because people are scared. You're trapped down there pretty much. If they want to go crazy on you, they're going to go crazy on you. So that is a little bit of a rough situation. I've got to be honest, like one of the big pressing issues that folks are wanting to figure out now is how to reduce the homelessness. Like it'll never be completely defeated. Let's not set unrealistic standards here. But both sides, so this is a very non-political statement, want to deal with the homeless people, but no one really knows how to go about it. There's two different camps, two different ideas on how to work on the homeless people. Both of them generally have some sort of rehabilitative efforts involved in them. But who knows which one works? I'll be honest, I've seen really both efforts fail in different categories. I think if you go too hard into like the underlying principle of rehabilitation, both efforts fail. So I think there's some sort of a middle ground where there's a little bit of stick and carrot that incentivizes rehabilitation of the homeless back into society instead of just giving them everything or giving them nothing but the stick. I think that would really be the best way to work about it. But who knows? It's a pretty big issue. It's getting worse from what everyone's saying around the country. I mean, something that we heard in California from literally everybody that I talked to, and there was a lot of people I wanted to talk to kind of like gauge the area, is that everyone was saying the homeless are getting worse. There's more of them, they're more violent, and it's just getting rougher. And I don't know why they're getting violent. I'd like maybe it has something to do with drug usage. Maybe that's making them have more violent tendencies. Maybe it's just that they're getting like shaken down on the streets by other homeless people, and so that's making them pissed and violent. I don't really know. But still, that something's got to be done to fix the problem because it's starting to become a nationwide issue pretty much in every city. And it's just not good for society, as a whole. For those people, the homeless people, or all the other people going about living their daily lives. But anyways, with that, I hope that addresses that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for support, Oats Air, and I hope I addressed that incredibly well.
Yes, indeed. And moving on here to our next super chat. This one's going to go to Brian Jeffcoat, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Brian, as well for that support. And also, I was just checking to make sure he did not put in a comment with the super chat. And in fact, there was no super sticker either. It was just an orange blob that said $19.99. And thank you very much, Brian, for that support, seriously speaking, and helping to keep our channel running. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to thank you so much for the support, Brian Jeffcoat, and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we would not be able to make this thing possible. You didn't throw in a comment, but we are absolutely appreciative and thankful for your support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Barry Woodward, who's also a channel legend and puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Barry Woodward, for that support. And he said, LSA, LSA, LSA for nearly 1,000 days.
Hey, and thank you so much. And also, sorry, George Tensher, there was some friendly fire there. I accidentally got you. And so, sorry about that. That's usually Matthew's job to moderate. And I saw something that was needing to be dealt with, and I accidentally clicked on your account. So sorry about that. But nevertheless, I do have to say, thank you so much for the support, Barry Woodward, and the LSA has nearly been here for almost 1,000 days, an absolutely incredible thing, and I got to thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it was not for folks like you, we would not be able to make this thing possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to JD Mako23, who puts in a $10 donation, and thank you very much, JD, for that support. And JD, I'm very sorry to hear this news right here, because I read this one earlier, and sadly I cannot read it off in its entirety because YouTube is very weird about these sort of things. And even though it is just simply addressing the facts, and very unfortunate facts, YouTube would get upset if we said anything about it. So sadly I can't, but I'm very sorry to hear the unfortunate news, by the way, and I hope he makes a recovery. And, you know, that's just a tough situation. I hope you're hanging in there with that, and I hope things get better, and I'm wishing you the best. But, Enforcer, what say you?
And I hate to hear that as well, JD Mako. I actually just read the super chat. That's incredibly unfortunate to hear. Sadly, also, I'd have to agree with Matthew there. YouTube will actually probably give us a community strike if we talked about exactly what was in that, which is really messed up because it's something that happened. You know, it's not like we're talking about or wishing it on someone. But nevertheless, I hate to hear that, and I would understand that that's got to be a pretty rough thing to deal with. Still, I hope that Kirk pulls through and hopefully recovers somehow, some way, because that's a very unfortunate place for someone to be to do something like that. But nevertheless, I hope that he continues to hopefully improve and doesn't end up in a very, very bad shape here very soon. But still, thank you once again for being here with us tonight, JD Mako23, and I hope that those words are at least a little bit of solace as much as possible. And I hope that everyone wishes well to Kirk. I can't explain why. YouTube would be very unhappy if we did, and probably would come down and break our kneecaps. So everyone just, I hope you all wish well to Kirk, and hopefully those well wishes will mean something in the end. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to WCatFN. Excuse me, who puts in a $10 donation, and thank you very much, WCatFN, for that support. They said, the ambassador is not Russia-friendly, and had this been successful, you might find a Russophile replacement waiting in the wings, and they're referring to the Estonian ambassador, and they said, keep up the good work, guys.
And I thank you so much for the support, WCatFN, and that is true. That ambassador has openly been anti-Russian in the past, and that may have been why they were trying to kill her, is to make a message to other anti-Russians, or maybe for a replacement to be brought forward that may be friendlier to the Russians. Who knows? That's an interesting point. And I got to thank you so much for the support and reminding us of that possibility. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Anthony Wilson, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Anthony, as well. He said, can you please share with us some more fine North Korean delicacies in your Zelenskyy voice?
I wish that I could give you the chance to see more North Korean delicacies, but sadly, I cannot do this voice for long. But if I was able to, I would be able to pull up the North Korean food.
Do you think you can give us the chance to prove that North Korea is sending dog meat to the front lines? It's a real nasty incident, long-lasting nasty.
Let us take a look. Beef rib soup. due to cows being crucial to farming by commoners, even by high-ranking people.
By
Both.
commoners, damn, man, that's not politically correct.
The chungal, which is those little sea urchin things that they pick up on the beach, and the chopanchai, and the chicken. Very straightforward. Chinese cabbage stew. Chunk ball, which consists of pig trotters, which is pig's feet. That looks wrong. That picture is very wrong looking.
Whoa, Jack! What the hell was that?
Romania. It's a pig foot. It's a pig foot. Like,
all right.
Like, it's just, they're pig's feet. So, like,
that is disgusting.
Whoa, Romania. Bro, we almost had a Romania with that one. Cookies. Corn. Just corn. And then we also had edible mushrooms, herbs and grains. We have hot pot.
Oh, the hot pot.
Man, I know a hot
Gotta get the hot pot with your crock pot.
And we have that kajami shakai, which is salted, fermented food in Korean cuisine prepared with fishing grains.
Oh, I see that everybody's catching up with the image apparently on the screen. I see a lot of people saying, "Oh my God." And so I said, it looks like a pee-pee.
Yeah, it kind of did. That's why we were like...
lie. It looked a little bit sus. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. Oh my God, yuck.
Ew, yuck. Oh,
it's unintentional, chat. It's unintentional. Damn.
God. Oh my God. Oh man, you'll make another...
repeat the foulness, but I don't cuss like that. But you know, he was saying every word in the sun. The way he said that one word that started with a G and was damn at the end of it, the way he kept saying that over and over was just hilarious. I was laughing my ass off at that.
Dude, and he was trying to like cover it up, like he didn't just sit there and stare at that for 3 straight seconds as it played in its entirety. Like, oh, what's this? Ew, yuck. Oh, what the?
Yuck. Oh my God.
Oh my God, dude. I'll never stop replaying that in my mind. It was the funniest thing ever.
Ew, yuck. Damn.
I'm sorry, chat. God.
Oh my God. I remember the night that happened and stuff like that. He was like, that guy was so terrified that YouTube was about to come down and eliminate his channel. I thought they were going to do something over that. YouTube didn't do a thing over that. Like, they didn't give him a strike. They didn't give him nothing over that whole thing. And any other channel would have been deleted for that. So I don't even know what the hell happened, but he got a free pass. He got lucky on that one.
I don't even know why that happened. Dude, honestly, he gets a free pass with making those hit pieces on us. Because according to YouTube, if you make like a certain amount of videos about another person and is like doxing him and stuff, that is literally in their policy grounds for immediate channel termination. I don't know why it hasn't happened to him yet. Maybe one day they will do it. I don't know. We've kind of gotten used to it and kind of live with it now. But still, it's like, you know, what's up with YouTube and just giving this guy breaks? But you know, one group that doesn't give him breaks is Twitter. Twitter has banned his account like 9 times since he's been on our radar now. It's like, man, it's like, it must suck to be Hot Dog Man on Twitter, man. Like, every single day could be your last, because he can't help but do that stupid thing where someone will be like, I think hamburgers and cheeseburgers work well with fries. And he will come in with a reply like, here's your address. It's 123 Sycamore Way, and I hope you die. And it's like that's a complete violation of YouTube, like Twitter's rules. So you just ban him. And then he comes back with a new account. I was like, ugh. Anyways, getting back to the North Korean food. Korean chestnuts. Not chestnuts, chestnuts. They have mandu, which is a form of dumpling that looks really gross. They also have meats.
I'm out here smoking these meats. Hey, it says occasionally dog at the end of it right there. It says it right there.
Bro. Dude.
It's like we got rabbit, goat, beef, and occasionally dog.
Bro, they're like, oh, you know, it's just that normal, that pork, rabbit, goat, beef. Occasionally
come
dog.
Back on Tuesday. Yeah, come back on Tuesday. We'll have the dog then.
All of the birds have been eaten, except for these dogs, and these dogs will be eaten on Tuesday. Dude, don't let Mr. Corgi go to North Korea, man. He's not coming back. He's coming back as a dish. But they also have this miok cook, and this looks like nasty stuff right here. Seaweed soup. I would assume that would be horrendous. Let's see here. They also have petrol clam barbecue.
Petrol.
We're going to skip that one. Wait a minute, hang on.
Oh, it's doused with petrol. It's doused with petrol and set on fire for about 5 to 10 minutes. I mean,
Where's the lamb sauce?
What do you say about that? Where's the petrol sauce, man? I want my béarnaise sauce with petrol.
Man, dude, you're just walking down the street. Hey, you want a clam that's been burning in gasoline for like 5 minutes? Bro, sign me up. Like, say less. Get to cooking. But
Is
then
it premium or unleaded?
Dude, it's leaded. In North Korea, it's leaded, dude. No doubt about it. But let's see. They also have noodles, which, we don't even have to go into those. It's just the normal. Well, actually, they have like a million different noodles. But moving on from that, they have pachon, which is a scallion. And it's it's just a scallion. Anyways, they have panchan, which is small side dishes served along with cooked rice in Korean cuisine. They also have pheasant, that illustrious pheasant bird that Gomer Pilot was trying to get in the Andy Griffith
Hey, do y'all have that pheasant bird?
We're trying to hunt that pheasant bird or something like that. And then they got the bibimbap, which it's a Korean rice dish, again, believe it or not. They have pickled cucumber, also known as a pickle here in America. They also have the pendai tok, which is it's a bean patty, so it's a Beyond Burger pretty much. They have porridge, potatoes, bulgogi. What the hell is that?
Ugh.
Hey, bro.
Oh.
Dude, it looks like a pile of shit sprinkled with wheat seeds. It's like, bro, it's like, that's terrible. Quail eggs. Dude, these people are literally eating anything, aren't they? Like there's no food in North Korea.
They got that yak pap down there at the bottom. It's a traditional sweet dish prepared using gluttonous rice. Nothing in North Korea is gluttonous, by the way. Chestnuts, dates, honey, and other ingredients. And occasionally dog.
So he's not coming on then. Dude, let's see here. Oh my lord, dude. A sundae is a type of blood sausage.
Oh, yeah. Popular street food. We want some of that blood sausage, yeah.
Oh my lord. Dude, this stuff is horrendous. It really is. Condiments. They have bean paste, garlic, ginger, gochujang, which is prepared as a sauce and as a red pepper paste. So it's like, I guess, their version of ketchup. Pepper flakes, sesame oil, and soy sauce. Beverages, they have bottled water, which is imported from China. And then they also have coffee. They also have instant coffee, ginseng tea. They do have some soft drinks, apparently. Apparently, the Wambong Trading Company in Pyongyang is one of the soft drink providers.
Can I get that Wongbong Classic?
It is
or
labeled.
diet?
It is labeled as carbonated sweet water.
Well, at least you're not false advertising.
It's like, all right, well, I guess it's just water with sugar in it that's carbonated. And let's see. Began offering its own brand of soft drinks on flights. Air Koryo soft drinks are sold at some North Korean grocery stores. Coca-Cola bottled in China is available in upscale grocery stores in Pyongyang. And Pepsi bottled in China is also available, although it is rare compared to Coca-Cola's availability. So North Korea is a Coca-Cola
Coca-Cola's got like a chokehold over even North Korea, which is like the cut off from the rest of the world. That Coca-Cola is infiltrated everywhere.
Man,
like you do know, like
McDonald's.
down there in South America and stuff like that, in Mexico, they drink Coca-Cola as like their water down there, but it's hard to come by water.
Man, Coca-Cola, man, I feel like they're gonna be like the next what was that thing on Wally, Matthew? Like By and Large, they're gonna be like the next By and Large, man. Like they're gonna be Bronto from Idiocracy, dude. They're gonna be watering the plants with Coca-Cola someday. But let's see, what is this? So that's just a tea. Alcohol. Oh, we're getting into the good stuff now. Beer brands produced in North Korea: Pohak, Ponghak, Pyongyang, just Pyongyang, Rokwon, which also means paradise, Ryongsong, Samgak, Taidonggang, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Let's see. Makolai, which is a special rice wine with a milky appearance. Oh, okay.
It looks like soup water.
Bro, they got that rice lake up, and like they got that rice.
Isn't that like the prison liquor that you make in prison?
I think it is, man. I think that's also what Maltai is. Like, let me go pull that up. Have you ever heard of Maltai before, Matthew?
Is that expensive Chinese like liquor?
Yes, it's that expensive Chinese thing, the Maltai.
Yeah, and the lighter fluid bottles too that's in plastic. This is
Yeah.
and this fetches thousands of dollars a bottle. Like I don't even understand. What is this like? This is like fire water, isn't it? This is real high proof stuff.
Let's see. So it is apparently not a rice liquor, it is a wheat-based liquor. So that's interesting.
Let's
Huh.
see, it's got sorghum in it, 38% of oh yeah, it's a strong one. It's about 38 to 53% alcohol
Well,
by
you know,
volume. That's a very strong one.
Well, you know why this thing has any prominence in China is because during the Long March that the Communist Party conducted in the 30s to get away from Shanghai Shek and into the mountains near Xi'an, they actually stopped in the town of Maltai, which is what this beverage is named after, and they had this liquor around. And so, because their feet had swollen welts on them and stuff, because they've been walking for hundreds of miles pretty much without stopping, they needed some help. So what they did is that they used this wonderful, delicious, by the way, quote unquote edible liquor to clean their wounds on their feet. Like it was almost like using it as rubbing. They literally used it as rubbing alcohol. It's like this even drinkable? It's like they use this to clean themselves medicinally. It's like I don't even think this thing is like a proof to be like
Oh, I
medicinal.
mean, you can use vodka for that if you were wanting to use like a disinfectant. You could use vodka and stuff like that. So now you can drink the alcohol that like it can be doubled as an disinfectant. You can drink it. It's not recommended to drink a whole lot of it, but you can.
You know what? I gotta find this out. How much is this stuff? Not
Oh,
that we
a
drink.
lot.
But let's see, multi price because you got to be able to get some in America. Holy moly, holy moly! This stuff is expensive. It's $629 for a 750 milliliter bottle of the stuff.
I don't even understand why either, because it's just like fire water. Like if you could find an equivalent in a different brand that's probably like a hell of a lot cheaper than that. So I guess it's just like the uniqueness of it or something. I know why I like the Chinese nationals buy it, because it has like a historic value to it. Like there's some status behind buying it, even though it comes in a plastic lighter fluid bottle. There's apparently some history or something behind it, so that it's okay to drink that lighter fluid. That's alcohol, that is. But you know, over here, I think it's just like the shock value of getting it.
Okay, believe it or not, man, there is a multi-America website. I'm not going to show it on stream. I don't know if YouTube wants us to. But guess how much they're selling on their store a 1 liter bottle of multi?
A liter of it?
Yeah, a 1 liter bottle of the stuff.
Probably like 1,000.
$750.
That's about right. You know, James Gin, which they can't ship over here. It's pretty steep too because of all the import.
Really? They like? Wait, you mean like James May's gin stuff?
Yeah, like they won't send it to Alabama because I don't drink alcohol. By the way, I was going to put it on the shelf because it looks pretty cool, but they won't ship it to Alabama because apparently Alabama's laws don't permit it. It's going to only be shipped to like a handful of states in the country right now.
Huh. Also, by the way, Matthew, do not scratch your chin again because I could hear that in the microphone. Like I heard you go, yeah. If you can hear that in the mic, I was like, oh, I was like, oh, that's not.
I didn't even scratch my head or anything.
Dude, I heard it, man. I heard. I was like, what? I was like, dude, what the hell? But anyways, beyond that, I will say, I don't think I'm going to be getting multi anytime soon because one, I don't drink. Two, that's way too expensive. And also it comes in a plastic bottle. So why would you get that? Like, you could literally get anything in America as cheap as it gets, and it comes in glass. Why does it have to come in plastic? I don't even think they had plastic when they originally made those things. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are going to be moving on to the next one. But a big thanks once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, Anthony Wilson. And I hope you enjoyed our look into North Korean cuisine. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And literally nobody heard anything about scratching or anything like that. Nobody heard, and I didn't even do that, man. That was you're imagining stuff.
No, man. I'm gonna go back and play the stream, man. Cap, we need a Fox News like sports instant replay thing. Pronouncing that correctly. 1 second. Gotta move it forward a little bit. Hang on. Believe it or not, man, there is a multi-America website. I'm not going to show it on stream. I don't know if YouTube wants us to. But guess how much they're selling on their store a 1 liter bottle of multi?
A liter of it?
Yeah, a 1 liter bottle of the stuff.
Probably like 1,000.
$750.
That's about right. You know, James Gin, which they can't ship over here. It's pretty steep too because of all the import.
Really? They like? Wait, you mean like James May's gin stuff?
Yeah, like they won't send it to Alabama because I don't
Right
drink.
there, right there. Like it was right there. Did you hear it?
I heard it, but that wasn't even me, man. I wasn't even doing that.
Then who did it?
I don't
Aw,
know, man. It wasn't me.
man.
Are you sure it wasn't you? Because you're the only one with the mic on.
Dude, it wasn't me because I heard it come through in the headset. Like I wasn't scratching my face when that happened. My hands were like sitting in my lap.
You know what that was the sound of? That was the sound of a hot dog man scratching his head trying to figure out why he's losing subs every day and we're gaining them.
Yeah, bro. That's the sound of Hot Dog Man trying
The
to
ghost
figure
of
out.
hot dog man, he's here.
Yeah, he's here. But dude, I was not going to be called crazy right there. That came through on the mic. I was like, we're going to have to call Cap and even get an instant replay on that one because I heard it. Like I was like, I heard that thing. But some people are saying it maybe it's the mic. Maybe it was. And some people are saying it's the dog. The dogs are not here right now, so it was not the Doogies. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and I'm glad that I was able to get back and catch that, so that way I didn't sound like I was crazy. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so moving on here to our next super chat. This one goes to Oats Air once again, who puts in a 50 this time. And huge shout to you, Oats Air, for that $50 support, the second one of the night. And they said, good night, LSA, and here's some pizza money for the boys. And thank you very much, Oats Air. And also, we actually tried a new pizza yesterday, Tortugas, which was recommended by Jexa DeSin in the live chat. And it was actually pretty damn good. It's Chicago-style deep dish, the first one we've ever had. And it's definitely a lot different than normal pizza. But I actually liked it. I'll probably get it again. I will admit, though, I do like the normal pizza better, but it was a good change. But thank you very much, Oatsair. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta say, thank you for the pizza fun. And we did get a new pizza from Tortugas. I went to this one specifically because the other one wasn't open yet. But I went into this Tortugas. Let me show y'all a picture of the pie. Wait, that's a small picture. Oh, that looks good. That's like a normal pizza. I need to find the Chicago deep dish. And where the hell is it? Where the hell's a good picture of one? Here we go. The Chicago deep dish. This stuff was delicious. It was like a cake of cheese. It was great.
It was great.
I
There's
tell-
lag also, by the way.
Apparently so, but this was absolutely incredible. We loved it. It was great. I cannot give Tortugas a great enough rating. I actually went into the store. The owner was in there actually cooking up the pizza. I talked to him. And I was like, hey, like I've never had a Chicago deep dish pizza before. Like, what's the recommended size? What are the best types in your opinion? And so I got it. Guy was a really nice guy, runs a really nice business, a tight ship, very clean looking kitchen and everything, and the pizza was incredibly good. If you are in the Birmingham area and you have not tried Tortugas, you got to go to Tortugas. There's one here in downtown Birmingham, and there's also one, once again, not sponsored by them, just letting y'all know about this place because it was really nice. Where the hell's the Galleria? It's down here. Okay, so then the other Tortugas is right here. This is the other Tortugas. So if you're in this area of the Birmingham region, go here. If you're in downtown Birmingham or kind of close to there or work there, get one on the way home. It takes them about 45 minutes to cook them. Don't worry though, it is worth the wait, and it is so delicious and so filling. It's not like a normal pizza as you would think. I think the Chicago style pizzas are pretty much completely different than the New York and Detroit style pizzas that a lot of people would be familiar with, but it certainly is worth a try because it's a completely different kind of a flavor profile. It's just delicious. I would highly recommend it. I'm going to be eating them again, that's for sure. I love Tortugas. It was a great Chicago style pizza. And also, if you wanted it to be as authentic as possible, the guy who runs the place is from Chicago. So he came down here to Alabama and brought the Chicago style pizzas with him. So it's like a Chicago style pizza from Chicago. I mean, the guy is the real McCoy. He's from Chicago. So great stuff. If y'all want a Chicago-style pizza, go to Tortugas and give it a shot. I'm sure y'all will like it. Maybe it won't be like your favorite kind of pizza, because a lot of people get used to the New York style that everyone gets all the time. But personally, I could really eat them interchangeably. Like, I think that Chicago style and New York style at this point are par on par because of Tortugas. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. I had to give them a little shout out there because they had an amazing pizza. And if you go in there and get one, tell them that the Enforcer sent you. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support, Oats Air. I hope you have a great night and sleep well over there in Seattle. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Jay Key, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Jay, for that $10 support. I do not see a comment attached with this one, but thank you very much for supporting our work, and we appreciate it very much. And our next one here is going to go to Bob Dole, who's back once again. He's not running this time, but he's here. Welcome back, Bob Dole. And he puts in that 10. He said, some animals escaped a South Carolina research lab. I did hear about that. Quite interesting. He said, I had better plans for them regarding Legos and Jack Daniels. But now the residents there can listen to the majestic screech of the fella building a Lego pyramid.
And well, I guess so. Yeah, but the biolab monkeys did get out, and they're roaming around South Carolina somewhere. Hopefully, they can be shot. That's usually what happens to them. They usually don't capture them; they just shoot them. At least that's what I think, because catching them is a bit of too much of a hit and a miss. Shooting them is a pretty certain thing. But hopefully, they can shoot them. Hopefully, they're not going to spread anything to folks that's going to be questionable. We wouldn't. What, Matthew? What?
I'm sorry, I wasn't laughing at the monkeys escaping the research lab. I'm sorry, Bob Dole. I got distracted. I saw Scott Shibalam saying in the live chat. He said, "Do not tell people the enforcer sent me." Honestly, I would actually have to agree with that. Don't ever walk into a restaurant and be like, "How do you get referred to us?" By the way, how'd you know to find our pizza joint? The enforcer sent me. Oh shit!
And knowing the guy's from Chicago, you probably think he's getting a shakedown. Like you'd be like, "Oh shit!" Yeah. You're like, "What kind of protection money do you want?" Like, don't tell.
We're gonna inspect your pizza ovens. Your pizza ovens look like they're a little not safe, Governor. You paid your union dues today.
No, man, you go in there and you're like, "Yeah, the enforcer sent me here. Hey, it looks like you got a nasty kitchen back there. It'd be a shame if a fire took this place out, would it?" Well, I'll tell you something. I mean, maybe if you give us a little bit of protection dues, we can keep a guy around here to keep the place safe, make sure nothing bad happens to it. It'd be unfortunate if the place burned down, like something like that. But don't tell them the enforcer sent you. Tell them, like, you heard about them from a YouTube channel that ate there and they thought it was really good. And then tell them the name of it, which is the enforcer, so that way they know you're not shaking them down. Because I never thought about that until you said it, Matthew, and I was like, oh crap. I was like, that probably does not sound good when you say the enforcer sent you. It's like, that's not a good thing. Like, that's not a good thing.
You remember when I went to that pizza joint, I placed an online order. It was like a local pizza joint that does like real Italian pizza, and the Italian fellows ran the place. I think they're Italian.
Actually, they're Turks.
Oh, they're Turkish?
Yeah.
Oh, well, they were sketched out when they saw my email address, because I went in to pick it up and I said, yeah, I'm here to pick up an order, and I said my name and all that stuff. And they're like, enforcer, Matt? I was like, what the hell? I was like, how'd they know that? I'm like, yeah, they fixed that pizza up good, I bet. But they said enforcer, man. They had that look on their face, like kind of staring at me for a minute. I was like, yeah, that's me. And they're like, okay, here's your pizza. Have a nice day. And I was like, thank you very much. I'm like, either they've done something to the pizza, or either they're sketched out by the email saying enforcer Matt on it. I'm not sure which one it was, but luckily the pizza was good. It wasn't messed up or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really good. Like, that pizza was really good. I think that's a New York style pizza that they were making, and then the Chicago style is really good. I like them all. And Detroit style, like, let me go show y'all Detroit style, because we haven't given y'all like picture proof of what that looks like, and everyone knows New York style. So let me go Detroit style pizza. New York style is the one that is made by all the big people, Papa John's, all those folks. But nevertheless, this is a Detroit-style pan pizza right here. Many of y'all will know it. It's a school-time favorite. Like, I think every single school in America cooks up Detroit-style pizzas. I think they're really good. Like, I think these are also good as well. Very bready compared to your normal kind of pizza. But I still respect them for what they are. A great contribution to American culture. Really American Italian culture. And that's something that's interesting. We actually have more varieties of pizza here in America than I think they have back in Italy, if I'm correct. I might be wrong on that, so correct me if I'm wrong. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and I thank you all so much once again for support. But also, I have to let y'all know, I think we're going to have to speed this thing up a little bit, because I don't know why, Matthew, but it feels like the vertebrae in my spine are turning into sand. So we are going to have to get this thing rolling. So we are on to the next one.
And the next one here goes to Matthew Jenkins, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Matthew Jenkins, for that support. He said, how come certain media outlets and people like Douglas McGregor are saying that Ukraine is doing poorly and taking extremely high losses and that there's not a chance in hell that Ukraine can win? That's because they don't know what they're talking about, and also they're listening to Russian propaganda and taking it for fact, which is the mark of somebody that has no clue what they're talking about. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would honestly say it's not that much of a stretch to say Douglas McGregor is being paid by the Russians, considering he showed up on Russia Today that one time. So, like, there you have it for that one. You know, it's like the guy's obviously a pro-Russian shill. When you show up on Russia Today, you know, there's not really a lot, you know, that's hidden about that anymore. That's literally the Russian propaganda channel. So on that regard, that's what I would say. If anyone's saying that Ukraine's doing poorly and they're losing and they're dying and it's all over, they've been saying that for 3 years now, and they've been wrong for 3 years because they always say it's going to be like next week they're over. So that would be my answer on that, the best I can. But whenever I hear Matthew Jenkins, the name of Douglas McGregor, I always am just appalled at the stuff that comes out of the white milk dud. Like the weirdest looking guy I've ever seen. He's like a mix of like Nicolas Cage, if Nicolas Cage had a bad career and ate too much, like that's him. Like I just don't have a lot of nice things to say about the guy. He just says stupid stuff across the board. I don't like him. That's all I can say. Let me see here if I can get y'all a little bit of some of what he said. Let me see. 3 days after the war began, he said the battle in eastern Ukraine is really almost over, and predicted if Ukraine doesn't surrender in the next 24 hours, I suspect Russia will annihilate them. That was about 984 days ago, and he was wrong. And that's just one of the statements. You know, you can go through the rest of this and find out that he's wrong on just about everything else. He's been wrong on practically everything, like NATO. Old alliances like NATO should vanish, and also a whole bunch of other interesting things. Like, you know, NATO should vanish, but our support for Israel must be ironclad. So let's support Western interests in the Middle East, but not in Europe for no discernible reason, really. It just doesn't make any sense. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. But that guy is no guy that anyone should be getting advice from. He just talks out of his ass, to be entirely honest. And all the disrespect is meant in that statement. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And I thank you so much once again for support, Matthew Jenkins, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our next one here. This one's going to go to Barry Woodward, who throws in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Barry Woodward, for that support. He said the U.S. government has zero money. Support for any support, including Ukraine support, comes from the middle-class taxpayers, and votes equal action.
Thank you for the support, Barry Woodward. But interesting enough, when you actually look at the tax base and what it's broken down into, interestingly enough, it's usually the top 10% of the country that pay about 3/4 of the income taxes, interestingly enough, which is shocking. You know, you usually hear different from everyone, but they actually pay a decent amount because, you know, like 40 or 30 or even 20% of what a lot of those people are making usually is millions of Americans combined sometimes. But still, the tax money is what the government gets its ability to act out of, is the money they get out of the population. And so votes discern what that money will be spent on. And so I completely agree with that, Barry Woodward. Votes equal action, and hopefully we will see that whatever course of action here in the future that's going to be taken will be a positive action in America's interest, whatever that may end up being. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that the best I can, Barry Woodward. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Adam McLean, yet again, who puts in a $10 donation. And says, have you ever met anybody in Alabama with a bidet or bidet in their bathroom?
I have not, actually. I don't think I've ever seen a bidet in my life. I've heard a lot about bidets, and I've heard that they're really nice and great, but we don't have a bidet, and I've never seen a bidet. Maybe one day we will see a bidet, but that'll be the day. The day for the bidet. But still, I hope that does address that fairly well. Adam McLean, very interesting question, though, and I hope that answers it. And thank you once again for the support and making this channel possible and helping us to keep this thing running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
You know you're from Alabama whenever someone asks that question. You say, I've never seen a bidet. I've never seen a bidet in my life. But anyways, moving on here to our next one. This one goes to Mr. Lobotomy, who puts in a $10 donation. And it's good to see you once again. And he said, look up Ohio Valley style pizza. It's amazing. I recommend DeCarlo's.
Style pizza. Well, what in the world is this? 2 slices of pizza from DeCarlo's in Pennsylvania. The right one is Ohio style. The hell is this? This is Ohio style on the right.
Looks like the cheese isn't melted.
Yeah, let's read about this.
Also, the pepperoni ain't cooked either.
Ohio Valley style pizza is a pizza made with cold toppings sprinkled over a square crust that has been covered with a savory or sweet tomato sauce. It originated in Steubenville, Ohio, and is served in parts of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, mostly in and near the Ohio Valley region of those states. And it was invented in Steubenville when he returned to the United States after serving in World War II. And let's see. So he came back from Italy and he tried to recreate the pizzas he had in Italy. So let's see here. Describe their pizzas in Italian bread.
Man,
base.
that guy in the live chat, Blake, is right. He said it looks like the elementary school pizza, like they serve you in the lunchroom. It kind of does, that flat cardboard-looking pizza stuff that is actually somewhat tasty if you're starving, but it's kind of like paper. It kind of looks like that.
I'll tell you something. I'm not going to judge it until I have it. Like it looks weird, and it's just cold toppings, but there has to be something good about it. Like, there has to be. Like, there's very rarely foods that just are not good. Like, very few foods if I come up against where I'm just like, that's bad. Like, I can understand why people will eat these things. So I'm going to try this. I don't know where we would find this. Like, we will have to go probably to West Virginia or Pennsylvania, which might be in our future here, and try these things out. Because I would like to give it a shot. Maybe it is good. I don't know. But still, thank you so much for the support and helping us to keep this thing running and making it possible. And also, Beepsney said Steubenville. Are you sure? Because from what I would remember, this is probably named after von Steuben, who was a German officer who was influential in developing American military tactics during the American Revolutionary War. Steuben, right there. And so it probably is pronounced. You know what? Let's just pull it up. Steubenville. If I'm mispronouncing that, I hope I'm not. How to pronounce.
Steubenville.
Uh-huh.
Sound like such
Steubenville.
Stupidville.
So British is Steubenville, which is very close to what I was doing, and then Steubenville is American.
Steubenville.
Interesting. So you are right, Beeps and Eats. I thought it'd be like Steuben, like Frederick Wilhelm von Steuben, but apparently not. It's just Steubenville, which sounds like Stupidville. Like, I would say Steubenville. It sounds more sophisticated, but still, it is Steubenville. Anyways, thank you for correcting that, Mr. Beeps and Eats. And also, thank you for sharing that Ohio-style, Valley-style pizza with us, because we will give it a shot. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Gator, who puts in a 5 and does not leave a comment. But thank you very much, Gator, for stopping by and throwing in that $5 support. And we appreciate it very much, and thank you. And our next one here goes to CK Bold, who puts in a 5 and says, take a live chat question. And we shall, CK Bold. Thank you very much for the regular $5 donation. And this one is going to go to Uncovered Cube, who said, the fact that Iran wants to stick its nose in our business, shouldn't we respond in some fashion?
Yes, we should. I think that that's a certainty at this point, and hopefully we'll see that there is a very strong response at some point in the future. And so with that, I hope that does address that live chat well. Thank you once again, CK Bowl, for sponsoring that live chat and helping this channel to keep on running, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Bob Dole, yet again, who puts in a 5. He said he caught one of the biolab monkeys. He said he bit me, and now he's full of the mad. He's gone mad. And I'm going to go on a jaywalk, he said, and not obey various laws implemented for the safety of myself and others.
He's a reckless
Bob Dole,
man.
that's a philosophy right there. He's like a philosopher. Bob Dole, you're killing it out there. You're killing it. But Enforcer, what say you?
Bob Dole, you're on a roll. Bob Dole, turning it into a song or something like that, but still, thank you for the support, Bob Dole, and you truly are a philosopher of our time, and don't let that monkey bite you, you bite that monkey back. And so with that, thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to EDR Sheets, who puts in a 5 and says, I get recommended this channel at the top of my feed every day, and YouTube really thinks you guys are my thing. I hope we are your thing. I hope we are. But thank you for the support.
I mean, not your thing, but still, thank you for the support, and I thank you for being here and enjoying it and supporting the channel and helping us to keep it running, so that way we can keep on showing up at the top of your recommend. And also, by the way, everyone, I forgot to mention this, we did take down today's short war summary today. it just was not doing well at all. Like, a lot of people weren't really looking at it, which is suggesting to us that our quality was not up to snuff. So instead of having all of y'all subjected to having to watch the video, we took it down. So in case y'all are wondering, where did the video go today? That's what happened to it. But I hope that addresses that well on top of that. And thank you so much for the support and enjoying this channel as well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Burnaby Alex, who puts in a $5 donation and says, all aboard the railway rabbit hole.
Hey, we love the railway rabbit hole. I would do another one, but my back is hurting so bad right now, it's really hard to focus. So with that, thank you so much once again for support and helping the channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Uncovered Cube, who puts in an LSA and a $2 donation. And I say, long live the LSA. And thank you very much, Uncovered Cube, as well, for that support, as always. And also, huge shout out to Aaron Watt, who put in a $1 donation as well without a comment. And thank you, Aaron, as well. And then we also had, and guess what, a 2 from El Kasser, who said, 1 out of 2 gets a rifle, 1 without follows him.
And that almost sounds like Enemy at the Gates. And I bet you that's what it's turned into these days. But still, thank you so much for the support, Alcacer, and helping the channel to keep on running. And I hope that addressed that incredibly well. With that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to George Tencher, who puts in a $2 donation and is trying to challenge my ability to do impersonations or impressions of these two different people here. Whoa, what happened, Jack? I mean, what happened?
The worms!
Oh my God! The worms! The worm it got in the brain and it went through the cells and it died of starvation. How is that possible?
And I'll eat another 7 worms just to prove you're assholes. But something like that. But still, thank you so much for the support.
The bears! The bear!
I put my hand inside of the bear's mouth just to see what the texture of the roof of the mouth felt like, and it was weird. Something like that. But still, I hope that does address that well, and I thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, George Tencher, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make it possible. And also, sorry for timing you out earlier. That was friendly fire, and that was not meant to happen. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are now on into the live chat questions. We're going to try and address as many as we can before my back gives out, and I just got to, like, do something about it. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, into the live chat question segment here, right here, we're we're going to move on to our Morse code decoders first. And the whole roster was here tonight. It was Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Kevin J, Paul Schultz, David Millsaps, Her Royal Fluffiness, and Arabelle Garbo, excuse me. And they said the Morse code for today reads, North Korea is bringing down their own dog water quality machine guns because Russia has none. LLT, LSA.
And that is the sound of money, and quite literally, as Mr. Lobotomy threw in 100 right when I said that. But nevertheless, y'all got the Morse code dead on the nail, and I gotta congratulate y'all for that, because y'all continue to do that day and day again. We are only 11 days away from the 1000th day of the war, and yet y'all still keep on getting that right time and time again. And so with that, I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on into the next super chat, crazily enough.
And our next super chat goes to Mr. Lobotomy once again. He throws in yet another support. And thank you very much, Mr. Lobotomy, for the very generous support. A $100 donation, that is. He said, here's some more money for some Motrin. And those pigs didn't do the pizza justice, LOL.
And let's see here. Thank you so much for the support, Mr. Lobotomy. Here's some other pictures of Ohio Valley style pizza. There's another one. And
it looks like it came out of a Lunchables box. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you know how you make the little Lunchables pizza? Like, you just put the little the little cheese scraps on top, and you throw the pepperonis on the top.
I'm not gonna lie, dude, though. Lunchables do smack. Like, when, like, you're just wanting some lead in your body. And, like, I think that these
BHT.
Yeah, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, I think this actually would be pretty good, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like, thinking about it now, I'm like, that probably is pretty decent.
Yeah, it's nothing like that. I think the BHT, you know, like some people say MSG is like unhealthy for you. There's some fella out there, I think his name's Uncle Roger, that wants to put MSG on pretty much all the food. Have you seen that guy, Andrew?
Hiya! Yeah, I've seen him.
Yeah. He wants to put MSG on everything. I saw him on there with Gordon Ramsay the other day. He said it makes the food taste better, but obviously it's not good for your health. Kind of like the same thing with the Lunchables. You know those things are like probably not good for you at all, but yet they taste so good at the same time.
Oh man, you know what I like better though, man, is like Lunchables are so unhealthy, and you know there's actually like a concerning amount of lead in them for some reason. Like, I don't know if you know that, but what's even more interesting, man, is that there was that competitor that came out here recently. It's like a YouTube-based competitor, and it's like it's almost literally the same thing. It's like there's like no difference in between that and a Lunchable. So it's like, what the hell's the point of getting it? Like, I think it's like even $1 more or something like that. It's like, what is the point? Like, I don't know. Like, I have no clue.
I'll try a Lunchly if Mr. Beast comes in and says, "I'll give you this Lamborghini if you try this Lunchly and survive."
Dude, I would not. Like, I mean, like, I refuse because the taxes are going to slam your ass on that Lamborghini once you get it, and it's like, I'm good. It's like, I'm fine because I won't even be able to have the Lamborghini. I'll have to sell it, and then I still get screwed on the taxes. It's like, nah, I'm good. And also, I would not want to, dude. I would not want to do one of those challenges. Like, I put someone in a blender and they have to try and stay above the blender blade for 100 days to win $500,000. It's like, I think I'm good. I'm fine. Like, I don't really need the money. Like, it's like, I'm fine. I'm just happy as I am. But what's worse, man, is that some people have actually been getting targeted recently for saying that kind of stuff, man. We could be next, man. We could be on the Mr. Beast
Targeted for
list.
saying what?
For saying that Lunchlies aren't good. Like, there are actually people out there, man, that they're trying to cancel right now for saying that the Lunchly isn't good. Like, I'm not even kidding, man. Like it's not Mr. Beast, because that would be bad look for his brand, but it's one of the other people. You and me may be quite familiar with that person, having grown up and looking at YouTube. It's one of the three. Matthew, I'm trying to get the hint out to you. You know which one I'm talking about, right?
I really don't know who they are, but I've never tried a Lunchly. But if I thought the thing was crap, I would simply say a Lunchly was crap.
And that's how it is. Like, that's how it goes. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least. And I also have to say a big thanks to you once again, Mr. Lobotomy, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I will give an Ohio Valley-style pizza a shot someday, because it has to be good to be spreading around the Ohio Valley area. It has to be worthwhile of some sort. Kind of like how Detroit and Chicago style really only exist in Detroit and Chicago, and very rarely exist outside of that ecosystem. But with that, I thank you so much once again for that incredibly massive support. The biggest one of the night, actually, in helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, it is now time for us to get as many live chats as we can. And so we are on to the first one.
All right, also Joseph Lantham said, Mr. Beast has bigger issues than lunchboxes. LOL. I mean, that's true. I mean, that's actually facts at this point, really. He's got bigger issues than that for sure. But anyways, moving on to that live chat question here. This one goes to AF Kaplan, who says, has there been any official statement from either the Estonian government or NATO regarding the incident with Estonia's ambassador?
The Estonians have made official statements saying that the only way to get peace in Europe is to defeat the Russians, and that's about it. We haven't heard an official statement from NATO at large. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Paramecium 13, who says, is the lack of arms due to supply issues or logistics?
It's most likely due to a failure of logistics and industry simultaneously that is leading to a lack of small arms, including light machine guns. And so with that, we are on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to, let's see. This one goes to Glock Glock, who's there? Who says, do you think Russia will target other Baltic states' ambassadors?
We're not entirely sure yet. We'll have to wait and see. This may have been a one-off attack, considering how vocal this person was against the Russian Federation. But I assume that there will most likely be more attempts to try and create an international incident. And so with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Joshua Greenwood, who says, how long do you reckon Ukraine would last if all support was ceased?
I have a feeling they would last a lot longer than people would imagine or think at the moment, but they wouldn't be able to last forever. I would assume maybe another year, and then that would pretty much be the end of it for them. They would have to find some way to get out of the war through some sort of a peace agreement or something similar. And so with that, I hope that addresses that well, and we are on to the final question of the night. And so who's the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Tusk Force, who says, does Jordan have the potential to become a more important country in the future, or in the near or midterm future?
They are fairly important right now. The country of Jordan is in the Middle East at the moment. They are a very large security ally with the United States and the United Kingdom at the same time. And for that reason, we expect that their prominence will grow. If I also understand correctly, their GDP is growing somewhat significantly. And while Jordan is somewhat of an oil-based country, it still isn't really like a massively oil-based country. You can actually see their GDP has been growing quite significantly, at least for their size, over the past few years. It looks as though, Lebanon's been taking a little bit of a dip. Whoa, very unfortunate for them. It looks like they went from having $54 billion in GDP down to around $20 billion. Very sad for them. Boo-hoo-hoo. The Switzerland in the Middle East, more like trash. But beyond that, it does appear that the Jordanians will become a far more important country here in the future, being entirely honest outside of all the jokes on Lebanon. But still, with that, we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I've got to thank every single one of y'all so much once again for watching, because out of the about 9.9 thousand of y'all who have watched tonight, around 4,500 of y'all are still here. Around half of y'all are still left. And around 90,000 people have watched this stream before it ended. We are entirely honored and thankful to have each and every single one of y'all here tonight, and I hope y'all enjoyed. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of news from the wars around the world, or really just news from around the world. And so with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die. Hello? Okay. Hello? Brother?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, man.
That damn lag, I tell you what. But anyways, folks, I think it was my turn to say something. I think we were at the very end of the Enforcer segment. So with that, sorry about the lag at the last second. We survived the entire stream without crazy lag, and then it hit right here at the last second. So hopefully you still hear me. But anyways, with that, good night, folks, and thank you all for another great stream once again tonight. We'll see you all tomorrow on the midday short war video, which tomorrow will be my day. And we'll have to see if there's enough news to cover, because if there is, you'll be hearing from me midday tomorrow. And also be sure to join us on the stream tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern for another night of war news streaming. But with that, Slava Ukraine, Herom Slava, get some rest, and good night.
Yes. The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Ooh.